5 seconds remaining. Radiant team ban. Dire team's turn to ban.
Doing great. We've got a great matchup here, Mike. AG versus Talon. It should be a strong matchup, but obviously, there's been some news passing around about a member of our community, Sexy Bambo.
Team ban.
Unfortunately, passes at a young age. I know it's hard, to reach news like that, especially from a person who's had a lot of impact from our community from the start. But yeah, it's something, Mike.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team's turn to pick. Dire team's turn to pick.
Gyrocopter!
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire team's turn to pick.
Monkey King.
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, it's a risky spot for Talon. I don't think this is the position they've wanted themselves to be in. Going in to the Div 2 of Southeast Asia, they had a bit of a rough time in opening qualifiers. They've not really played together as a team for too long, although that is building up as the weeks go on, but it does look like there has to be some adjustments made. So we'll see if Talon has managed to adjust. I think maybe some of it's down to this team synergy, coordination. Maybe some of it's down to draft from Fly. So there's a couple of aspects there for Talon to kind of build up on. For AG, it's been a bit up and down as well, right? Like they've shaken things up since they've taken Varish and Azura, but it's been slowly improving to the same AG we saw before. In fact, this draft is just very interesting as well. This is a very AG sort of draft, right? They pull out the Gyrocopter with the Terrorblade on top from Arm Geniuses. So we've got a couple of options with flexing the Gyrocopter. We've seen Gyrocopter support before. We've seen it mid. It's pretty open for AG to kind of toss it around. I'm assuming a Gyrocopter support here for AG, perhaps for Azura or for LYM or Varish. That could be sort of flex, maybe pause 4, pause 5 Gyrocopter coming in. For Talon, they start with Monkey King, Ogre Magi. Also pretty flex on the Monkey. We've seen it run as support. We've seen it run on mid on occasion, and we've seen it run on safe lane. So there's a lot of ways for Talon to kind of switch things around depending on what they feel on the matchup. I think with an Ogre Magi coming out first, Mike, it does feel like it might be a pause 4. You've got really good vision coming through with a Monkey King, just jumping around the tree line, providing cut-offs on the ganks, giving you information as to where the enemy team is farming, and gives you good angles to initiate from. So that could be where the value lies for Talon, but it's not locked in yet. We've seen a lot of first phase Monkey Kings going to 1, going to the pause 2 as well, so we still have that flex on hand for Talon.
Radiant team's turn to ban. Dire team's turn to ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team ban.
Yeah, so we need to take a look at it. I still want to see someone use the shard. Like, it does come out a couple of games, but we haven't seen, like, the shard plus Ags duo where you just can't kill anyone. Because they get imprisoned, they walk a little bit, they get
10
imprisoned
seconds
again, they walk
remaining.
a little bit. It's so much stall time that someone else can just come in,
5 seconds
reinitiate, turn the
remaining.
fight around. So it's a very versatile hero, that OD. And in the mid lane, it's just kind of hard to zone out. A lot of matchups just have a hard time trading with the early arcane orb, like the value point at level 1. You almost always just win out the right click trade every 6 seconds when it refreshes. And of course, you've got good harassment, or at least good cutoff with the Astral as well. So good here to
Dire
cut
team's
off here
turned
from
ban.
AG. It's something the Terrorblade doesn't deal with particularly well because it's pure damage. So they're protecting the TB. Doesn't have the best int gain as well, so the mana pool difference is big. And it looks like they're just ensuring DB has a good time. We'll see what else they build up, though. I think Talon with the Quap and Storm Spirit Bands are definitely focusing on that mid lane.
10 seconds
There's still
remaining.
a couple of options here for Azura. I think the Ember Spirit of Azura is probably one of his best heroes.
5
His Ember
seconds
and
remaining.
his Void Spirit. And Talon only has one band left. So one of those Spirit Brothers will slide through, and AG is most definitely going to gun for that for Azura to buy space for DB.
Dire team's turn to pick. Radiant team's turn to pick.
Brewmaster!
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team's turn to pick. Dire team's turn to pick.
Timber Saw!
Wind Ranger at your service.
I mean, the Timbersaw kind of works when you're dealing with a Monkey King, can cut down the tree line, take away the vision
10 seconds
advantage, and make it
remaining.
easier to chase him down. It's also up against 2 strength heroes already with the Ogre Magi
5
and
seconds
Brewmaster.
remaining.
So you've got a lot of heroes to pin down. I'm not sure what a Wind Ranger pick for AG, because it raises such a big question. What's our mid for AG? Are we seeing a Gyrocopter Wind Ranger support duo? Which sounds really strange. I mean, pos 5 Gyro is not strange. We've seen that before, but with a Wind Ranger on the 4 as well, it doesn't give you too much control. Like, you really lack AoE control here. On AG's side, with the Timbersaw off lane, it just doesn't keep people in. You need something to help the Timbersaw keep them in chakram,
Radiant team's
keep them
turn
in
to
check,
ban.
line up for the shots.
Lion.
There's nothing yet. There is flex here. Like, you could run Wind Ranger mid, you could run Gyrocopter mid, still last pick of support. You could run Timbersaw mid if the matchup kind of works as well. So AG's keeping it really open, maybe a bit too open. I think that's a bit out there.
10
I'm assuming
seconds
we're just going
remaining.
to see a mid last pick. There is a lot of opportunities for Talon to ban out the
5
rest of the
seconds
Spirit
remaining.
Brothers, though.
Ban.
I'm surprised AG didn't take either the Ember or the Void Spirit, but with the Batrider ban, maybe they're running Timbersaw mid. They just want to kind of have that dominant position on mid. I think the first time we were seeing it recently for me was from JG, and he had a spectacular time running that. We've been seeing it pop out a couple of times since then. So if you do have that Tim mid, you can still get something on the offlane for Wami to kind of get some team fight going. But on the other hand, this is also a Wami special, Mike, so I'm not sure if
10
you really want to give it to
seconds
Azura.
5 seconds remaining. Dire team's turn to ban. 10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team's turn to pick.
Hmm.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Nothing with big team fight for me on the mid, but I don't know. Alina would be nice for some control. It's still not reliable control. I think they might actually be thinking about Timbersaw mid because they're expecting a Monkey King for Mikato mid. So Timbersaw versus Monkey King, but that also isn't. I mean, a Monkey King still kind of wins out by just building Jingu. Sure, the Timbersaw can still rip him to shreds early on, but the Monkey King has a way of sustain and holding that lane. So I'm not sure. I think AG again might have overflexed just a bit, Mike. If they do want to go a bit left field, like Mars is still available, they go an Invoker instead. So it is our Wami Timb Invoker on mid for Azura, and we have seen his Invoker a couple of times. It is impactful, but it doesn't fix their issues. Sure, you've got Tornado, you've got EMP, you've got the Ice Wall to kind of slow them down. It's still not the hard control you're looking for.
10 seconds remaining.
And it can make it a bit tough to just chain off all your spells.
Remaining.
You've got a good buff for your Terrorblade now with Alacrity up. I just think this game is going to be a lot harder for AG just from lack of control. They do have a bit of a run and gun going, Mike. Like the Timbersaw up front can just get work done for Talon. Their best way of melting him is really the Ogre Magi and Lion, and maybe the Cinderbrew, as you mentioned, onto the Timbersaw. But once you have a Hood of Defiance, maybe even a Lotus Orb, Wami should be pretty fine. And we know how he loves to play that Timbersaw. He tends to be really aggressive, holds a lane down for a long time, comes out really farmed. So I think Talon has to be a bit careful about that.
Admiral Conquer!
Choose your hero. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
I think Talon has the better draft. I think they've got a solid set of heroes to come in. They've got great control coming out. They've got great team fight as well. They're going to have to pressure AG into buying early BKBs. I think that's the only way DB holds up in that matchup. Like, if he has a BKB, he doesn't need to worry about the Cyclone. He doesn't need to worry about the magic damage. And he can just kind of hold his ground. For AG's side, I feel like with this kind of draft, you're going to have to hit some sort of mid-game timing, but it's not like your mid-game timing is overwhelmingly stronger than Talon's. Talon has that early game spike with a Kunkka. The Monkey King we've seen be active really early on. So I'm guessing Gabby might be willing to run around, join in his team once he gets an Echo Saber or some early pickup and just use the information they have on hand to start setting up fights. AG, I mean, it feels like it's all in on the Terrorblade. There are ways to get some good damage out from your Jar Copter's support. I think the Ag Shard and the Veil of Discord is actually a really big spike for that hero, but I just feel like Talon's going to be ready. They're very durable with a Kunkka, and it's going to be really hard to just burst him down.
AG to pick up their first series win in Division 2. Of course, AG, though, again, every point does matter. They want to try and win this series if they can. And definitely not to be underestimated is Army Geniuses. We are going to have a 5-man smoke up already from Talon. Be a very early team fight. They get some decent vision down early on. Lines have been drawn out though from AG, so perhaps they'll be the ones to try and assert their own dominance here. Talon.
Step lively now.
So if they're going to try and sneak up to that high ground of the triangle. No one there to break the smoke right now. Savarish, he might get caught out in this gyrocopter. Hyde, he'll frontline for the team, but they're going to find nobody. Talon, they'll have the vision to see, or rather AG will have the vision over Talon on that triangle, but it should amount to nothing for Talon, as again they are kind of being watched right now by AG.
It's a bit painful for Talon as well. Hyde does drop a sentry on the cliff, assuming that's where the board was, but he misses out in that ob, so you're always going to have that one bit of vision coming through here for AG to hold on. AG might still walk up, but it's a bit of a risky spot. There were lines drawn around, but Talon doesn't really have the time for a flank around onto the other side here.
Certainly don't.
Battle's
AG
starting.
able to surely just take two for themselves, as KP going to fight Varish for a little bit. In fact, never mind, it is going to be a 3-for-1 trade. It's a nice little start there for Talon. A gold boost for themselves, as we'll see the lanes break out now. A DB, he's going to meet KP in the triangle, so no lanes quite yet. They'll just fight in that dire side, as they are refusing to allow KP and Hyde to make their way over to that laning stage. Eventually, we'll just make their way over now. Hyde and KP, they're going to be against DB. And of course, Varish on that +5 gyrocopter. Talk to me about this lane, John. Are we concerned more so for AG or Talon?
I think it's a very even lane when you put it into perspective here, Mike. Like, you've got stuns coming through from AG. You've got two ranged heroes once Metamorphosis pop on DB, so it's not going to be really easy for KP to just constantly run up and harass him out. And you have to consider Reflection early on with the damage output of a gyrocopter. Once you hit, say, level 2, level 3, with a rocket barrage up and running, it makes it really easy for you to chase someone down, to just get the damage off and be aggressive. So I think this can be an aggressive lane for AG. At the same time, for Talon, once they do have the Cinder Brew up and once Hyde is just willing to throw his spells out, it gets a lot harder for AG to trade. You mentioned it in draft, Mike. The DB might just burn down to that Cinder Brew damage being spammed out by KP and Hyde igniting it. So there's a lot of ways for them to still keep that Terrorblade in check once they hit those level spikes.
And the likelihood is as well, KP probably will go for that early earn as well. So you're going to have that bonus magic damage coming in once KP does pick that up. So we'll have a look back at this bot lane later on as mid lane. You're going to have Azura against Mikoto. We kind of talked about this in the draft, but it should not be the easiest lane in the world here for Azura. As you can see already in the CS board, Mikoto having a great old time. Top of the board and already about 4 times the CS of this Invoker. So certainly not a great start here for Azura.
Yeah, it's a rough lane for the Invoker. Like, you're always going to be harassed out. With the Tidebringer, you can try to passively regen. You can maybe try to toss a Tornado Cold Snap out, but in the early levels, you're likely not to really do much to Mikoto, except really just annoy him. Rune control is going to be a little bit more important for Mikoto. We don't tend to see Invokers go for bottle, and in that sense, Mikoto is always going to be able to spam his spells out, as the Invoker's not going to be wasting time jumping around. We will see Azura at least deny off 1 Water Rune, but he's going to miss out on some CS. Gives a lot more room to Mikoto, so I think you've got to watch yourself in that matchup. As a non-bottle hero on the Invoker, you kind of want to just play with your lane as much as possible and use that opening when the opposite mid laner kind of goes for the bottle refills. You will have to watch for support rotation, so as Mikoto does have a lot of potential once a Lion comes in or even the Ogre Magic comes in to set up for the kill.
Absolutely, and of course the final lane we haven't discussed yet is going to be that top lane where you've got Gabby and Fly against Wobby and LYM. Wobby on that signature Timber, and we did briefly go over this during the drafting phase, but he is very dangerous on this hero. Of course, he is going to be against Gabby, which, yeah, it's not the easiest time against the Monkey King, but as you do get the levels up on Wobby, he's going to care less and less about the MK. He has been keeping his distance quite nicely here on the Timber Saw. Fly unable to really get in range to do anything towards the Timber, but now they'll try to make their play. It's Gabby looking for that Jingu Mastery proc and is going to be able to get it, but won't go too much further. Just realizing he won't have the damage to deal with this level 2 reactive armor.
Yeah, I do appreciate what LYM's doing as well, just constantly running around on the back, harassing out Fly, ensuring the Ogre Magic can't just walk up, use some spells onto Wami for free. he does have the early win run as well, so even if Gabby goes in for the stun setup, if it's not coming from Fly, not much damage will come through. So I think for AG, this lane is a little bit more manageable. They've got a lot more angles to play with. It's a Wami special on the Timbersaw as well, and he's at level 3, so even if you do get that Fire Blast into Jingu, it's just not going to be enough to rip through a Timbersaw who has a lot of reactive armor to play with.
I do appreciate what they're doing though, right? Like they're making sure Gabby does continuously proc the Jingu. And I think the idea is to just make sure Gabby is able to secure CS without Wami just denying creeps away. Right now he is behind Wami. So Gabby just wanting that bonus damage and lifesteal to make sure he remains survivable and just gets that gold he needs. Things have been rather tough in the safe lane of the Dire so far. Still no first blood occurring across the map quite yet. Not really too much action either. I thought this bot lane would be very, very active between these two duos, but they both have been quite conservative thus far. And mind you, DB, of course, has popped the meta, so it's probably the worst time to try to make the play on the TB. Though I imagine once that metamorphosis is over, we might see KP and Hyde try to get a little bit aggressive and get those first earn charges on this Brewmaster. At least for now, though, KP is going to be sitting at 0.
Yeah, I think it's really good positioning coming through from Talon though. Like for AG, when the mate has popped, that's when they can get really aggressive. They've already got level 3 in Farish, so they've got the level 2 Rocket Barrage. There's a ton of damage in chasing just one hero down. Hyde could be that unlucky hero.
Yeah, he may be DB. He'll get the refraction off as Hyde is going to try and run. Is still trying to run, but won't make it out as DB and Farish are able to secure first blood. And before anyone corrects me, I realize I said refraction instead of reflection. There you go, John. Correction made. Hyde will go down. First blood the way of Varish.
Yeah, it's that aggression we were talking about. And for a while, Talon was doing a good job spacing themselves away, standing near the creep wave, standing near to the camps to ensure there's no good angle for the Rocket Barrage. But DB just runs up, even without the Metamorphosis. The reflection slow is enough to kind of just help you out. Yeah, I almost said it. It's a bit of a tongue twister, Mike. And you know me, English is... I don't speak English too well. Still, great first blood from AG, setting themselves up for a really strong start. We're all seeing Varish as well walk around to help secure some runes here.
Top rune, Kodo able to pick up a double damage. That's a big one. Is unable to close the gap there onto LYM to get the X off though. So LYM, he'll remain fine. Did you look at Makoto's CS, John? I mean, 45 and 7. Comparison to the 29 and 5 of Azura. And I mean, with the DD up and with the level 7 up, you do either expect a rotation up from this Kunkka or a kill attempt onto Azura with that DD rune. We'll see which one comes first here for Makoto, but he is pushing out the wave, which does kind of indicate he wants to rotate. See what he does decide to do.
Yeah, it's a big spike for Makoto. He's got a lot of damage to play with. I think the best target would be to just jump DB. He does have his level 6 up. He's pocketing a skill point for the Sunder. So he's got some protection, but with the control and damage of Makoto, that might not be enough. And Makoto is down here already, just looking for the angle.
Gonna try and get DB. There's your Cinderbrew out. KP getting a nice slow off. Makoto, though, he is nowhere near DB to be able to get the X off. Realizes just no point, so he goes back into the mid lane where they are going to find Varish. This might be at least something for Makoto to be able to get. And with the Gyrocopter, there's really no way out of this, surely. As Makoto just has way too much right-click damage. But in the meantime, they are going to lose Gabby. So you found a POS 5 Gyrocopter, but you lost your POS 1 Monkey King.
Yeah, and that trade really works out in AG's favor. Talon just hesitating on the bot, miss out on the opportunity to trade for the DB Terrorblade instead. And finding the Gyrocopter is nice for Kunkka. Sure, it's some added gold. It's not the same impact on the game. And I think you're going to be very pleased about that for AG, keeping Gabby in check. We talked about this lane for a while, Mike, but Gabby's had a bit of a slower lane, especially in comparison to DB. Sure, you could argue Wami's not getting as much gold as well. He doesn't need too much gold on the Timbersaw. So even if his farm's being sacrificed, as long as...
Oh, Gabby, he got shackled mid-air. Wami's going to move in to cut down the tree, and that'll be another kill onto the Monkey King. There's now Fly. And he's just trapped up. Makoto's going to try and help out, but they've lost their Ogre, and now Makoto, he does not want to die right now. Oh, that's a great shackle, LYM. He buys himself a little bit of time, but it's not going to be quite enough. So Makoto, he gets something, but you lost so much at that top lane. 3 heroes going down across the map, and DB, he was there for that top tier 1 tower.
They just make it work on side RMGs as the aggression's lining up, even down bot for KP.
Yeah, KP lost all his mana, and you know what? The mana's not even the problem.
Too old for this sport.
Swami does pick up the kill onto the Brewmaster. So far, just nothing going right for the side of Talon.
Yeah, the only hero getting good gold in this game so far from Talon is Mikado, and we still haven't seen him get the big rotations off. They will go for the smoke play now. I think they've got a rough idea as to where DB's standing, so they need to find that Terrorblade kill. They need to keep that guy in check, ensure that he's not too far ahead of Gabby, so that he stays manageable in this game.
Oh, Torren out first, DB. He's going to barely avoid it, but it may not matter because Makoto, he gets the X off into the boat setup. Fly is there with the follow-up stun if needed. They've got help coming in, but DB, he's so low, but not quite low enough. They haven't killed him off yet. Talon, they may miss out, and now the turnaround. AG's here. Azura, he'll get the EMP off, but they are just trying to retreat right now as KB's shown up along with Hyde. They want something for their time. They'll find Azura, but he's in the Ghost Walk now. They'll X him back. Sentry down. Azura, he's still alive, but eventually she'll drop as Gabby. He'll get to work, and Makoto able to take the kill onto the Kunkka. But boy, oh boy, John, it took them so much to find that Invoker kill, and they still miss out on DB.
Bottom tower needs some help.
Yeah, and it's a massive set of rotations as well here from Talon. They had to drag 4 heroes down to ensure the kill came out. It's a lot of time being given out to the side of AG after they split off. Like, Wami just takes control of the bot lane, level 8 now on our Timbersaw, just cutting waves. And this is the timing of the Tim. He's just unstoppable in the lane he holds down.
Wami won't dive the tier 2.
Tower is under attack.
Hyde sticking around because Makoto had rotated. He's going to TP to the tier 1 tower, and that's a nice X. Right back. Wami, he needs some help. Does dodge the torrent though, but Earthspike is there to make sure they lock him down. And Wami will eventually go. So another nice rotation out here from Makoto as he's able to pick up his 4th kill of the game. But they are going to have to rotate back to mid because DB is going to get stunned from that mid tier 1 tower.
Dire have fortified their stretch.
They popped the Metamorphosis. They've got the siege creep here on RMG's side, so the push should just be flowing in. Talon, this is where maybe some of that lack of team fight comes in. They don't have the best ways to hold outside of Mikado tossing both an X combination out. And after that, maybe the Wukong's on top can help, but Gabby's just not itemized enough to help do some damage there. So it looks like they'll have to just give away an early T1. That's going to open up the map here for AG Mike and allow them to really track Gabby down, to ensure the Monkey King doesn't get off to its big start it needs, and to ensure that KP's progression into its Ags is going to be severely slowing down as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, times are getting very tough here for Talon as they are going to slowly lose their jungle now and just kind of be relegated to that dire triangle instead. But you're not really at a stage where Gabby's ready to farm the triangle. So you'd much rather not be there if you can avoid it for Talon. Not until he at least has the Maelstrom up. We can confidently take down those ancient stacks. So I suppose you do have the vision advantage here with Gabby, so he can scout out before he starts farming his own jungle. But right now it is going to be occupied by DB and Varish. In fact, mid lane Varish, he's going to be spotted out by Gabby, but he's going to make his way out. AG. They've got so many ways of cutting down trees here. Gabby, he just has to be so careful not to get caught with his pants down. Again, he will go back towards the safer camps of that jungle, but Varish, he is on the chase. He's keeping tabs on Gabby.
They've got great wards here as well from AG's side. A nice cliff ward on that top jungle area to watch that small camp on low ground. And they just know where Gabby's trying to rotate. He's so starved out on the monkey. He's just being dived under tier 2s. No one's around to help him out. They're all focusing on that bot tier 1. They're going to have to get some TPs in soon because AG's got the numbers here by force.
You got to be careful. He will barely avoid that chakram. I do appreciate what Varish is doing, just literally following Gabby across the map, giving the information over to Wami to just chase him down. And this is how you want to play the Timber. It's so strong at the moment. Nobody can really kill Wami off unless they commit as 5 to deal with the Timbersaw. So just being able to follow Gabby across the map is a very valuable play here for AG. And you can see it on the net worth board because DB, he's still ahead of Gabby by a long shot.
It's very tough for Gabby to just hit his farm spikes. Talon, I think a lot of pressure is on Nakato to really go around, look for some opportunities, but they're kind of playing passively here on Talon's side. Defensively farming up, playing the bot jungle while Gabby tries to take the safe farm up top. But it's just not amounting to much map efficiency right now. They are kind of keeping themselves in the game though. Less than 1k lead from AG, so it's not an overwhelming start for them. And Talon still has tools coming in. Mikado has his fresh BKB here, Mike. Your Kunkka can definitely stand in the middle, start these fights, and just bait everyone in and use that spell immunity to turn things around.
Good, and he'll try now mid lane. Pushing in that wave, here's Makoto as he does move on to that tier 1 mid tower. DB, he's hanging around just in case they need him to join this team fight as the TB, and he does have that level 4 meta up. The Talon, they aren't going to commit all the way. They'll smoke instead and try to wrap around the long way, but Gabby is being stalked once again. This could be great timing for a smoke to make sure Gabby survives. They find some form of the hero kill. Varish has been called out. It's not the greatest kill, but they can settle. In fact, never mind that, they were trying to chase down Wami, but he does TP out in time. So just a gyrocopter pos 5 kill, but I suppose something is better than nothing right now for Talon.
It frees up the top jungle a bit, forces the Timbersaw back, so it's a lot safer now for Gabby to just hold that lane, and it's a free kill. You know, they didn't need to pop BKB and Mikoto. They still have that tool for the next team fight. They still have all their big spells. They might find more targets here if LYM's not careful.
Mikoto barely out of range to get the X off, but you've got KP chasing him down on the brew. Spirit Vessel up, but they are going to be unable to keep up with LYM as he continues playing around with them. And what a shackles to come out. He's caught the Kunkka and hide on the Lion, but there's not enough follow-up to kill off Makoto yet. Instead, they'll go after KP. With that homing missile, they'll lock him down. LYM, he doesn't have the follow-up stun yet, but KP's dropping low. Primal Split is there in time. They'll turn back onto Wami now on the Timber, and they've got him. The kiting in and out from Talon does end up paying off, as now they even found the Wind Ranger. And LYM should eventually fall here to the side of Talon. There is no chance of survival. It's a very nice little play there from our Dire team.
Yeah, just a bit of overcommittal coming out from AG. They didn't have enough control to follow through and keeping KP from hitting that use of the Primal Split. So Talon starting to find a few bigger kills. You know, killing off Wami does help them set up and build up a lot more. And in all of these fights, they still haven't popped that BKB from Mikoto. So he still has the full 9-second charge. They can look to just kind of play this way. Hit and run, not really overcommit, hold on, you know, don't overextend. The long game, I think they're still very confident in their Monkey King hitting a mid-game spike in comparison for terribly. DB, he hasn't gone for anything defensive, Mike. He's going for the Manta style next, but without a BKB, I think you're just leaving yourself susceptible to the chain stuns that Talon does have on hand. They can just look to X, look to Torrent Boat, keep the Terrorblade down, prevent him from getting the Sunder off. I think Yugi's going to need that BKB sooner rather than later. He is going to pick it up after the Manta. We'll see if he has enough time to really hit that farm spike.
Yeah, I mean, the Manta makes enough sense, right? Like, you get the dodge ability, you get to be able to farm a bit faster and keep all the lanes pushed out here as DB. But naturally, once you have the BKB up, definitely you can start to really get involved here against Talon and not worry about those supports locked down. But now DB, he'll keep up the farm. No need to rush to do anything quite yet. I mean, Gabby is still pretty far behind DB in terms of farm, and in terms of the MKTB matchup, again, it's not the most fun for Gabby. You've at least got to wait out the BKB before you can really make the jump into the Terrorblade. Even if you have that Wukong's command up. For now, at the very least, Gabby, he just needs to catch up in farm, because he's 3k behind.
It's a lot more time Gabby needs to really hit his own spikes, but I think Talon's, again, doing a pretty good job in just keeping everything in check. No progression on tier 2s here from AG, so they don't have a clear shot towards Roshan as well. They are still getting some farm spikes. Azura's also working onto a BKB, but the pressure AG's applying on the top jungle, it's just great. You know, they've got the aggressive wards, they know where to play and scout out. Mikado off to a bit of a chase in the bot jungle, not much vision to play with here. Again, we still haven't seen him use this early BKB, so it's just kind of sitting there, and if you're playing a bit of a farming game, it can be slightly detrimental. You could have gone for something else that accelerates your farm, but so far I think they just want Mikado taking that riskier spot, standing up front, ensuring that if the rotations do come out, he is protected. And again, the stall game is kind of low.
He's gonna take the gank here, Varish. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Mega kill!
Varish is gonna die, but DB was farming the left side of that Dire jungle, so he just wants to make sure he breaks the gank before it does make its way over to DB. And again, the Gyrocopter not really doing anything right now anyway. You may as well just keep your carry protected as bot lane. Speaking of protecting your carries, Gabby is gonna try to run. It does make his pounce out. Power shot just off the mark in terms of the tree line there, and Gabby gonna have just enough information on LYM to realize he needs to escape ASAP.
Invisibility.
Good kind of use of distraction coming through from Talon. They're still wrapping around top. They're trying to pressure out DB. Being protected. So they miss out on the kill opportunity, but they might be able to go for a push. I think you need to take some of these tier 1 towers out if you're Talon and want to play in that triangle. The mid tier 1 especially is just holding them off from really taking good control there. They plant a forward ward, spotting rotations. It looks like they might actually just commit for that objective now.
They may, but DB's going to TP in, ready to defend if he needs to. Makoto, he does have the Shadow Blade up though, so he might be able to initiate very nicely here, but we'll reveal it.
Step lively now. Your Admiral is
Because
on
it's
board.
very important for Army Geniuses not to let this tier 1 tower go down. DB, he is definitely not done with his own jungle yet. They are going to smoke up down to the bot lane. Gabby, he has found LYM, so a nice start for Talon, but now he needs to run. The smoke is coming fast. Gabby, you'll get into the tree line. It might be a little bit too late here for Wami to catch him, so instead they'll go on to Hyde. Earth Spike is out, Sunstrike to come in, but Hyde will just die to the chakram of Wami. But again, you got Gabby out, so as Talon, you're pretty happy with that. No need to worry about Hyde dying. It's right back to farming here for Gabby.
It's a good trade-off for them. They give the kill towards the Monkey King. So Gabby gains a lot more. Wami picking up the kill isn't as significant now for AG. He's already kind of hit his early item spikes with a Hood of Defiance and Yules. And Kai Sanch is going to be really helpful, but it's just to kind of keep him up with scaling. I think for Talon right now, again, they've still got a lot of room to play with despite that early aggression from AG. Gabby's still building up. I believe his BKB's flying out as well here. So now the Monkey King's protected, and this could be the timing where Talon just stick together, look for a kill, use those 2 BKBs under big cores, and just run down AG. With the spell immunity up, AG's control is really severely limited in these team fights.
That it is, and they've smoked up as 4 now. Trying to get that surprise reveal on that BKB, but Varish is around to break the smoke, but instead they'll ignore him. They'll let Makoto do with that gyrocopter as they found LYM instead. Again, not the greatest target, but they'll take what they can get right now. And they have found the Wind Ranger. In fact, Varish, he's still not within safety yet, but the bow, it doesn't land. Back Sunstrike's gonna fly in onto Makoto. Varish is somehow still alive, but Gabby will finally get the job done. And with those 2 supports dropping Talon, they will be able to finally secure that T1 mid. Or will they?
Dire's bottom tower needs some help.
Rotations in.
Where did
BKB up on DB, but it's all too late.
They managed to take the objective. This opens up the map a little bit more. They are forced to deny their tier 2 top. So they take away the gold, but that opens up the outpost here from AG if they do make a foray into that jungle and just kind of want to set up for the Roshan. Talon, they're still in a good position. I think the next item spike we have to wait for here is perhaps KP's Ags. He's going towards the Midas first. A bit of a latent Midas here, Mike, but it will ensure that he's going to get that steady flow of EXP, steady flow of gold to hit that Ags timing. Once you do have the Primal Split charges up, should be a lot easier for Talon to, again, commit to these fights and look for deeper, bigger kills. DB's been very well protected from AG's end. He's been working this map to a near perfection in terms of just having efficiency up and running. It's going to be a lot harder for them to keep down the Terrorblade with the BKB up. I think they're going to have to try to kill off those supports again, maybe kill off the Invoker, and then look to isolate that Terrorblade, or if not, just isolate him entirely with a good gank out. But despite the vision game Talon has with a Monkey King, it's been really tough in just catching DB out alone.
Well, 5-man smoke, another BKB to come out this time for their Invoker, so Azura now very protected himself. They'll wrap around the long way into that dire junglers. Oh, Gabby, he's a great target. He jumped into the tree line, but LYM, he's already found it. He has absolutely 0. In fact, never mind. He got the BKB off just in the nick of time. Gabby, he'll walk away with a slither of HP. Is now Makoto. He's going to jump in after Azura, but can't quite finish the job either. As DB who rush forward, trying to get himself a target, but there's nobody left. Nobody dies. I thought for sure Gabby, he may go down. I didn't think he'd have enough time for the BKB to be popped, but he barely gets it off in time and just about walks away with 100 HP.
Yeah, that's massive for Talon, but AG, they've re-smoked, so they're looking to sneak up. They know some of the BKBs were popped.
Meta's about to wear off. DB, he's got about 5 seconds for that. They move in onto Gabby again. Blind, he is getting jumped right now by LYM, but in the meantime, DB, there's your meta gone now. Hyde, Wukong's command down. They'll control the Terror Blade and DB. Oh, they mistimed the gank.
Smashing this thing
That was a very confident attempt. Out from the side of Army Geniuses. It does not pay off, and now Gabby, he wants to go for a bit more. He won't quite find another target. They won't go into Roshan yet either, but they'll be happy with that team fight.
And that was, as you said, Mike, overconfidence from AG. I think charging in with DB first, it sent a message, but he just wasn't set up for that counter fight. They tried to get the control off onto Gabby. They didn't have enough burst damage to deal with a Monkey King. And when you do have the Alacrity running on your Terrorblade, it becomes really easy to identify the real one. So simple job for Hyde to just get the Hex, get the Earth Spike stuns, and burst down the Terrorblade. BKBs were still on cooldown when they ran up as well, so you weren't protected on DB side. They do manage to find Gabby anyway.
Oh, Gabby in the tree line top lane is going to be caught up by LYM. Varish, of course, will give the tip over. So I believe that was a power shot into the tree line to get the vision onto Gabby. Such a hard time for the Monkey King when you're against heroes like the Wind Ranger and like the Timber. You're just never really safe. Now the Roshan.
Yeah, Roche is open. They know the Monkey King can't just jump in. There is vision here from Talon. So they know Roche is happening, but they're on the opposite side of the map right now. They can't really contest. They do have the spells to contest. They're just not in position to. So first Roche going away with AG. And he's going to give a secondary look out to DB. And LYM, again, just getting all the tips for all the work he's done. He's really managed to keep a good lock onto Gabby. And just finding that big kill for AG every single time sets them up for success. Talon, I mean, they've still got a long way to wait for KP's Ags up. They will smoke immediately after. They've got the spells running, they just need to find the angle.
Where do they find them? Down towards the south they go. Looks like Azura may get caught out. Hex is there as well. Hyde, he'll get the initiation. Makoto trying to get the damage off. With the turret control, they'll have enough.
Visibility.
Nice gank there from Talon. For now, Army Genius is seeing their Invoker go down. They'll back off. But Talon, they might be able to set up for that bottom tier 2 now.
Yep. They've got all the heroes needed to get that push going. This will even out map control, allow them access to the outpost as well. And from the side of AG, without the Invoker, their teamfight just narrows down a huge amount. Like you talked about that Invoker pick, Mike, providing them with Tornado, providing them with the Ice Wall to kind of slow things down. Without him, they really don't have too much AoE influence. You could maybe say Chalker, and you could maybe say the Call Down. It's not quite the same impact. So Talon even out map control, take an outpost. They have good control of the bot jungle. It's been well protected for a long time, with a lot of vision and commitment coming through from Talon. And they can just kind of play that slow game. Like the Ags is eventually going to come out on KP. They've almost got the full AC up in Mikado. He's got the Silver Edge as well to do a ton of damage and just break off the Timbersaw. Side of AG has to be a bit cautious. They still are protected by the Aegis, Mike. They might consider going high ground.
Bounty
Can work. It's just Talon has pretty good defense with Wukong's up and the boat and Torrent to play with.
Yeah, it's a very forced attempt here from Army Geniuses. I mean, they just get the creep wave and leave anyway, but they did run all the way up as 5 to make their way to that top lane, but well, in the end, they do not commit.
Middle tower shouldn't
they
have
could
to
still
take
try
this
to force a
abuse.
team fight with the smoke, because they do have plenty of time with that Aegis, but they might just wait another minute or two before they really try and commit. And it seems as though Talon, they are not afraid anyway. I mean, they are still pushing down bot lane. Perhaps trying to force AG back so they can force that fight that they want. But at the same time, you may as well wait for Gabby, because he's about 1k off that Eye of Skadi now. So I don't think you really need to force the fight as Talon if you don't have to. You may as well just wait out the Aegis and wait out that Eye of Skadi time.
Yeah. There's no rush. Again, their scaling's pretty good on Talon's side. The Terrorblade can still do a lot of good work in the matchup, and he does still have that significant lead on DB. Still about 4k above on that DB, although.
Now Varish will get caught out again. It looks bad from Varishon, but he's doing the same thing. He's getting information for his team. That's really all that matters for the Gyrocopter at the moment. Just find out where Talon are, because you trust DB to be able to outfarm Gabby and deal with him later on. And I think again, the pos 5 gyro, it doesn't really matter if he dies, as long as he gets that information. Why though? He's surrounded, but DB has Manta off the Cinder Brewers. DB is trying to move forward. Wami will be there as well, but they will not find the jump they wanted. Talon, they were there to help out anyway.
I think the big worry right now for AG, Mike, is sure your Terrorblade scales, but how about your Timbersaw? How about your Invoker? It's very hard for especially Wami to just throw his body forward with the break mechanics on Talon, with the Spirit Vessel running. I think it just becomes an issue of solely relying on DB to really have all the scaling in the world to deal with the side of Talon. Whereas for Talon, you know, we've seen Kunkka late game, we've seen what happens when he gets his Ags timing, gets the Ag shard up. Even if the damage output of Kunkka disappears, his control is still there. Brewmaster, after Ags, you tend to go refresh for KP, so you have to deal with 4 primal splits. That just completely breaks the game as well. I think for AG, despite having the Terrorblade scale better than the Monkey King, everything else around it just doesn't have that same scaling, and I think that's the big worry for Army Geniuses. Sure, you're getting a good time with DB, but you're giving Talon a chance to catch up on every other hero as well. Not just Gabby, but Mikado and KP as well, and their scaling is a lot better so far compared to our Timbersaw and Invoker.
It's kind of why I appreciate KP's Midas pickup. Most people would look at that and not really understand why you'd bother, but I think for KP, not only is it the gold, but he understands how important it is for this Brewmaster to keep leveling up, as those Brewmaster talents are some of the best in the game. So KP just wants to hit that level 25 mark and get all those talents up. As AG though, they've smoked up. Into the triangle they go, but they've already lost that Aegis on DB now. Not able to find the full value they were looking for. And instead they'll just hold this high ground. But the thing is, Talon, they know exactly where they are now. They can just go to the opposite end of the map and hold the other jungle instead.
Yep, and they're just having a great time. They've got the entire bot jungle to themselves. They're not under pressure to get rotations out. Until AG decides to push a tower, I don't think Talon's going to leave that area at all. Maybe someone comes in to defend top as it's naturally shoved in just a little bit more, but you can kind of just play with X and TP back, so it's not a massive issue in clearing out one side camp. It's like they will send KP to get that done. He has X back, so it's not an issue. They can just keep playing together as 5. There's no opportunity for AG to look for that solo pickoff because Talon's just avoiding them entirely.
Yeah, but now they can go for the tier 3 jump. They know KP has no TP up now, so you're going to be missing one hero unless you have a smoke up, but it doesn't seem like they do, so Makoto, he'll be there to try and defend by himself and allow the time for the rest of his team to make their way over, but it's not going to be that easy. Not with DB with this Metamorphosis getting to work behind. He'll jump in. They jump in with Gabby as well. Wilcox's command down. He is getting blown up. DB needs some help right here, right now, but he won't get it. In fact, LYM and Barish both being deleted by Makoto. And now they found Wami.
And full ahead.
So Brewmaster or not, it just didn't matter because AG, they stuck around too long. And Talon were able to buy enough time to bring everyone over. Mind you, they still got the tier 3 tower, but that's about all they got.
Step lively now. Your admiral is on board.
It's a bit difficult for AG because they had to front line with DB. They couldn't put Wami all the way up forward, and that meant once they get the initial stun, just chain stun, Terrorblade, no chance for the BKB to come out, he just gets pinned down. Bad news for AG is Talon now really have control in this game, 9-19. They're still going to chase off up top as well.
Azura forced the BKB up to try and get out of there, and he will be fine. It'll be your BKB down now, and Talon, they may perhaps try and force another fight or at least get these top towers, knowing that they are lacking at least one BKB on the side of Army Geniuses. Not to mention DB is still gone for another 10 seconds. And even when he is up, it's a minute till he has that Metamorphosis. Up until then, he's practically useless. They will get the top tier 1. Do they bother for another? Not quite. They may just wait out the next Roshan instead.
It's going to be really good timing here for Talon as well. They've got the DD bottled up in Mikado, so if it's an early timer, well, they're going to have a good time in the Roach Pit. And now they just take control of a different part of the map. Hold the triangle, keep farming up as a team, keep sticking together, playing together. AG, it really does feel like they have that early timing, but they haven't been able to capitalize as much. So I want to see what else they can go for in terms of itemization. I think Wami has been stuck with the Yules, Kaya Sanj, and Hood of Defiance for a while. He does have 2k in the bank. A Lotus Orb could help them out in maybe saving off DB. At least having a Dispel on hand could maybe break the chain stunts and provide DB that opening to use his BKB. Because despite all the fights, Mike, DB's BKB is still at 8 seconds. Talon's just been on point and jumping in first, keeping the control on that one big win condition. And once he's taken out, the follow-up fight for AG is just not quite there yet.
You've got to give props to Hyde for that, because he's always in with the great initiation on that Lion. Never allowing DB to be able to get that BKB off in time, and it's just such a hard game when you're against a good Lion player like Hyde. It's Talon slowly starting to move their way over to that top lane again. Gotten started on that T2 top tower. Again, Army Geniuses, they should be able to fight. They do have all their spells and items up, but I doubt they're feeling too confident about it right now, as they are 8k net worth behind all of a sudden.
I guess Radiant fortified their structure.
Problem is, though, you are losing position for the next Roshan. Here for the side of Army Geniuses, and they'll get a bottom T2 tower for their trouble, but Roshan is up in 5 seconds.
And that's going to be massive. That's going to set up for the high ground attempt on either side. AG need to be in position to contest that rush. They do have wards watching the pit area at the least, so they can tell when Talon does decide to dip in. And that should give them a signal as to what's going on. They've also got the Sunstrike, the Scout, so they're aware Rush is going to be taken. The question now is, how do you initiate? Because again, outside of your Terrorblade, you need to find a way of angling for Wami. You need to make their way fast, as Talon's kind of ready for this fight.
I'll tell you what, John, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they've got to do it. As Varish, he'll frontline and Hyde. He's there again with the Hex out. He'll 4-star Varish back. Makoto, a big swing of the sword, doing so much damage to the side of AG as now the boat flies in. He's got 2 targets. Varish, he might get bursted right off the bat, and he does. But Talon, very clean start for this fight so far. In the backside, Makoto, he does pop his BKB. That's 1 BKB down for Talon. Army Geniuses still very patient with their initiation. They have bought back and they will smoke up. They did smoke under vision though, so Talon are very well aware. They've smoked on their own side of things now. It's LYM. Just giving vision to the Roshan pit. Talon, they won't go back for it yet. They'll hold on. Problem is LYM, he can just continuously check with that power shot every few seconds. Talon, they've got to decide whether they want to commit or not. They are slowly moving up to try and catch somebody up, but Army Geniuses, they've kind of backed off here. Sunstrike will give all the information over. Talon, they are still taking their time. In the meantime, though, Varish, he's just thrown up again. He just bought back. You really don't want to lose your gyrocopter like this, but he has no choice in the matter as he will go down. Another great start for Talon, because now it's a guaranteed 4v5 scenario. And I don't think that AG can fight this any longer. They might try though. Wami, he'll jump in with the BKB out. It's all too early for DB. He might just force the Roshan with the meta pump. He's going to try. Talon though, going to start the fight. There goes LYM already. He'll buy back. Gabby in the Wukongs, trying to survive. DB though, going for the man fight. Gabby, can you get it done? DB getting back by Roshan, and now the fight flies in. Makoto gets it done. DB's gone. Roshan so darn low. They can't get their Army Geniuses. They'll lose everything. Gabby, he understands how far they can take it. In fact, Wami did grab the Aegis. Somehow, he got a little victory there for AG. In fact, how did he get the Aegis, John?
Just managed to swing in. A good Gale Force out from LYM held him off long enough for him to snatch it away. So they don't lose everything on AG's side, but they still don't really win out. The bash is coming through onto DB from Roshan. Of all people, just kind of ruined them. And of course, you've already got the Ags up and running on KP, so Split Form was up and running. Managed to take control in that fight. They don't have the protection of Aegis, but they know even if that Terrorblade spawns up, he does not have Metamorphosis for a while. His damage output's going to be way less. And Talon just are in a good position to kind of pressure the high ground if they want. No Outry Towers left for AG, Mike. 9-24, 19k lead for Talon. Despite that slower start, they managed to hold on long enough, give Gabby KP and Mikado all the farm they need. And they're just set to kind of maybe sneak away with this game.
You've got the Torrent Storm now up on Makoto as well, John. He is 27.5k net worth on this Kunkka. Just well and truly ahead of anyone else on the map. So this next team fight, once those BKBs wear off, Makoto, he's going to be a real nuisance.
Now. Your Admiral is on board.
At least for now, though, Talon, they'll respect the high ground defense of Army Geniuses and they'll back off. They understand they have a massive lead right now. There is just no need to push the game any faster than it has to go. At least for the side of Talon and Army Geniuses, they're the ones that might need to start get aggressive and find a way back into this game number one. The Talon, they should be sitting very pretty at least for the next few minutes.
Yeah, they've got a pretty big window where they're really strong. They can use this time to just further itemize. Refresh for KP's the next big one, Mike. And again, at that point, I don't know if you can even stop the Brewmaster from just splitting every single time. They just don't have enough control to keep KP down. They don't have the burst to take care of him as well before that split comes in and the Brewlings just start causing havoc. I think your best bet now in AG is really your use of EMP. If Azure can drain them of all their mana, you don't have to worry about the spells, and that will keep Talon in check. But that's a lot harder to do when you don't have setup here.
That it is. Kind of goes back to the fact that AG, they don't really have team fight. And they've got a little bit with the Invoker, they've got a stun here and there, but nothing's guaranteed here for AG. Just proving to be very hard to lock anybody down now as they move back in to that mid lane. But it's just Makoto being a bit of a nuisance with that X-Back. He did have a DD rune active, so he's just getting a tiny bit of chip damage onto that tier 3 tower. And speaking of chip damage, DB's doing the exact same thing down at bot lane. That is going to force Fly to rotate back on that Ogre. Make sure it does remain defended. But the net worth grab, John, it just continues to go the way of Talon. AG, they need to get something done here to try and switch this all around. No smoke. Maybe that's the game plan. Just try to find a pick-off or two and kind of go from there, but they've kind of smoked near nobody. No targets around for them to find. They will see Hyde mana draining the creeps, but if they can catch him, he is smoked up. In fact, the rest of the team now smoked up behind Hyde. A bit of a bait play from our Lion, as KB will even show himself now with the Midas. Moving up to that high ground, Wami, he'll be there. BKB popped immediately, KB, he's going to be fine for the primal split. DB, he's popped the meta straight off the map, and now the Hex out. Hyde again, he's caught the Terrorblade, but where's your damage output? It's not going to be there yet. They cyclone him up. Meanwhile, on the backside, Gabby, he'll get to work. Barishino, I am already gone, and now Wami will drop. It's DB left, it's him against the world, but his BKB is about to wear off as he tries to run with the Invis, but no Hyde. Again with the control out, and Gabby gets an ultra kill for the side of Talon. As Army Geniuses, they get absolutely zero, John.
Yeah, AG, you tried to smoke out. You were trying to get some counter wards in, I think, on that triangle area in the end. But it just comes down to timing. Like, you've allowed Talon to build up on all of these cores that scale well, and you only have the Terrorblade that scales up with you. Like, the Invoker, sure, it's got the items up. Sure, the Ags is there. Where's the setup for Cataclysm? It's not really there. You don't have any way of having Wami stand up front anymore. With the break mechanics on hand, with the Spirit Vessel on hand as well, so you don't really have the best frontliner. You just don't have team fight on AG outside of the Invoker. Talon make great use of that, as you pointed out, Mike. Hyde, time and time and again, just isolating out our Terrorblade, and even KP as well, just running up, having the confidence with that Aeon disc up to always get the split off. And again, it's that Cyclone. You Cyclone out TV, you kill off the rest of his team, even if he lands back with BKB. It's one man against the world, and that's just not enough to deal with Talon at the moment.
And they may just commit, John, for Megas, because you haven't got Metamorphosis up now. DB's got no mana, so there's just no way he can find it to Gabby. Primal Split is there from KP, and we've seen this before. You can just hold everyone else back and not allow them to get close enough to try and defend, but OIF, he'll move in. Shackles is not latched, though. Very, very hard defense to make now. The Wukongs has been committed. KP again just being such a nuisance in the backside. And Talon, they'll get what they came for. They've got the Megas up. Can they at least find one pick-off? They may get Fly with the Tornado to connect, but that is not a great one. Fly will happily die to allow the rest of his team to back off. And Megas are officially up for Talon.
Yeah, and this gets to be a really hard game now for Army Geniuses. They do have some form of a wave clear, especially with their Timbersaw, but again, the issue is finding a fight to win out, to transition to an objective, to transition onto the enemy high ground. It's just not quite there. We were seeing some great shackles from LYM, we were seeing some great use of the Gale Force, but the Wind Ranger can only do so much. It's really down to Azura and down to Wami and even Varish to an extent to get some slows, get some damage up in the middle of the team fight, and for Talon to maybe misstep, for AG to find that punishment to come true.
Yeah, John, I'd hate to be the bearer of bad news for any AG fans, but KP's got a refresher orb up now. So he's basically got unlimited charges of the Primal Split. That's going to be somewhat problematic. I mean, he's already a pretty big nuisance in these fights, let alone with one charge. But he's going to have so many charges available. That Brewmaster Split, and well, he's yet to hit level 25 as well, so things are only going to get worse. The Geniuses maybe just need one good team fight to go their way, but how do you do it? I mean, 30k behind. It's really hard to imagine them getting any kind of fight to go their way.
I think their best bet is really just getting good shackles off, finding a single target to kill, and just kind of rinse and repeat. I don't think they can take any of these team fights. Even with the Ags and Azura, we saw them try to play that Cataclysm combination. It's just not enough. And on the big targets that might get bursted down with that, I mean, KP already has Aeon Disc, right? He had it in the last fight, so you really don't have too much to worry about here. On Talon's end, AG, if they find a good pickoff, they could stall this game out. Try to keep building up. Maybe hitting Ag's timing on DB, that could help.
They almost found Hyde, but Hyde again able to get out of there, at least for now. Oh, this Lion's just being so annoying here for Army Geniuses. John just blinks up to the high ground, takes the ward out, 4-star back down, and just walks away. They can't stop him. In fact, I love the fact that Hyde got lucky enough to get the ninja gear, so he's constantly smoked as well. And it just makes it that much more difficult to be able to pick off this Lion before the team fight really starts.
Yeah, they just can't take care of the big initiation coming through from Talon on AG's side. And they're just kind of constrained now onto their high ground. Like, Roche is up and running, Talon's got control of the triangle, there is maybe a ward watching, and they've always got the Sunstrike to play with. But once you secure this Roche number 3 here for Talon, it's got the refresh up and running. You can have double use of the Torrent Storm, double use of the Ghost Ship Fleet. I don't think you need to pass it on to KP because he's got his refresh. It simplifies the high ground for Talon. This should be the opening they need to maybe look for that last fight. AG, I don't know if they can actually afford to give this one away, but they can't really fight in it as well. So maybe they'll play safe, hold back, allow the Aegis and Refresh and Cheese to go out onto Talon and just maybe look for an angle on the high ground defense here.
Well, now we've got a refresher shard available for Gabby as well. He probably will just hold on to it because double Wukongs when you're taking down an Ancient is just so valuable. See if he passes it off. You could maybe give it to Makoto and have double Torrent Storm, double Boat, but at least for now they are going to hold out. They'll give Gabby the refresher shard and let him hold on to it as they do move their way in. Nice scan out from Talon. They will catch a couple in that scan, but they won't move up to that high ground. Instead, Talon moving into that Radiant base. They only have their eyes set on that Ancient. In KB, of course, your Primal Split with the Aghanim Scepter up now, moving into that T4 tower. It's going to be very hard to try and defend this. They've got to try. Still DB already flying mid-air. Just can't do anything for his team. This Wami, he'll get stunned up. He's trying to beat KB, but it may not matter. In fact, he's gone. Gabby just takes him out so darn fast. Now they move in for more. DB, he's already popped the meta. Metamorphosis is not available though. KP again, he'll go for a Primal Split out. Cataclysm's there, but they've called the GG. AG, they have no way to defend this. Talon are just way too far ahead. And they will be able to pick up game 1 in this best of 3 series.
It's a great start for Talon. It looked like a bit of a slower start to the game for them. We were seeing some big
5 seconds remaining. Radiant team's turn to ban. Ten seconds remaining. Dire team ban. Radiant team ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire team ban. Radiant team's turn to pick. Dire team's turn to pick.
Monkey King.
Dire team's turn to pick. Radiant team's...
Gyrocopter!
Points away.
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team's turn to ban. Dire team's turn to ban.
Feeling great, you know, Talon managing to take game one despite a slower start. AG, they had an idea there. Maybe it was a bit too left field with the Gyrocopter 5, and, you know, despite it being a great game for Timbersaw on paper up against so many strength heroes, they just didn't have the follow-up control to really maximize the rest of their picks. Like, they had a Wind Ranger 5 coming through, Wind Ranger 4 coming through for LYM. He did a lot of good work in the early game, just not enough to kind of set up for them in the late game, and I think... AG are looking to shift things around. They start off with the Gyrocopter once more, but they pick it with the Pangolier. So this should signal maybe a Gyrocopter 1, and the Pangolier could shift for a support for LYM. This is also a Wami hero though, so they could go for it on the offlane, but they left it open to the counterpick. Talon into the Monkey King once more, and the Grimstroke. So they've got the Soulbind to stop the Rolling Thunder from coming through from Pango, which makes it a lot harder for Wami to kind of set up that control they want. I'm keen to see if AG still believe in the Pause 5 Gyro, because it's a first phase Gyro pick. It might still be a support for them, but it didn't have the best showing in game one. So I'm keen to see if they just give that to DB instead, make it a big core that can farm up. I don't think the matchup is too bad against the Monkey King. If it is going to be a Gabby Monkey King once more, I think that's something you can manage for the most part and just kind of build around that. So a bit of a shift for AG, just slightly.
5 seconds remaining.
I definitely think the Gyrocopter, maybe if they do go support Gyro, they need something to really follow up and control here.
Dire team's turn to ban. Dire team's turn to pick. Radiant team's turn to pick.
Wind Ranger at your service.
I hope it's not a Wind Ranger Gyrocopter support duo. I think LYM had a really good Wind Ranger game. If you do run the Wind Ranger 4 once more, that's still all right. But it has to be a Gyrocopter one. You don't want Wind Ranger and Gyrocopter as a support duo because, again, your follow-up controls... I mean, you do have Rolling Thunder, but it just doesn't feel hard to control enough. And Talon, just go into the Spirit Breaker now. They have a lot of vision to play with here, Mike, on Talon's end. We've seen Spirit Breaker from the offlane just be insanely hard to deal with in the late game. Like so many waves of Spirit piercing through spell immunity, so mobile, jumps the back line so fast, great amount of durability and damage as well. I think Talon are setting themselves up for a lot here. They've got Charge and Inkswell combination as well if they want to go that route. Inkswell combination with the Monkey King. AG go into the Morphling. This could still be, say, an Azura mid-morph against the Ember. If it's a safe lane Morphling and we're going to get the Gyrocopter on support, I'm not too confident in AG's draft after seeing that support during game 1, Mike, I have to tell you.
5 seconds remaining. Dire Team's turn to ban. Radiant Team ban.
Hmm.
Ten seconds remaining.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a slower timing for the Spirit Breaker. I like your point about pause for Spirit Breaker. I would argue that instead of Brewmaster, something like a Beastmaster would be really good for AG. Double Roar, great push coming out, even more vision with your Monkey King. And if you just hide, smoke up, get a Blink Roar onto the Morphling, he's dead. Right? Like we saw that issue for DB in game 1 where after the chain stunts on TB, he couldn't Sunder. I don't think he even managed to Sunder at all in that game. So it's almost the same deal with Morphling. If you just keep him pinned down long enough, he's not going to be able to really maximize his HP, maximize his time in the fight. And I think that could be an issue for AG if something like that does slide through. We'll see. I think they are kind of open to the fact that this could still be a Monkey King support. They could be running the KP Spirit Breaker and maybe running something else on safe lane for Gabby, but I think for Talon,
10 seconds
that
remaining.
flexibility might be throwing off AG quite a fair bit here.
5 seconds remaining. Radiant Team's turn to pick. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire Team's turn.
I still feel like a shift for KP on the last pick is big. They go with a Spectre instead, so it looks like we will get likely our Hyde Monkey King, KP on the Spirit Breaker. Still a lot of vision to play with. This is actually really scary, Mike. You've got a really strong global strat in Talon. Haunt in, get the charge up, have Ember Spirit just Remnant in. You can jump nearly anyone from across the map for Talon's end, and you're always going to have follow-through from the Grimstroke, because if Spirit Breaker charges, just toss Inkswell on. If Spectre haunts in, just toss Inkswell on. Ember jumps up, Inkswell on. You know, you've got the follow-through for that global strat from your Grimstroke, and you can really apply a high amount of pressure onto AG. For AG's part, there's still a question as to whether or not Morphling will go mid or safe. Again, I think we've seen Azura run the mid Morphling a couple of times. Ember Spirit matchup is not the easiest, but also kind of manageable once you hit level 3, so they could flex that way. But there's just a severe lack of team fight again, a severe lack of good control. Like, what will you do about Ember Spirit here, Mike? Like, sure, you've got Shackles, you've got Homing Missile, maybe, Rolling Thunder, but if Ember just dodges out, you're in a world of hurt. And AG do go into the Life Stealer, so that should be our Azura Morphling coming out on the mid. I don't know about this, Mike. It looks really greedy from AG's side. Life Stealer into Spectre is actually a pretty good matchup, especially if you go, say, Silver Edge on Life Stealer. You go into your Scotty, get some Life Steal going, you can just run down to Spectre in a prolonged fight. You do kind of win out, but I think the same issues stand here for AG from game one. There's a severe lack of big team fight, a severe lack of good control to keep the Ember down. I think this time around, Talon has a much easier time to secure Gabby some early farm. He can still be hunted down in jungle as we saw in game one, but I think the Spectre is a much more stable way of scaling into that late game compared to the Monkey King late game as well.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the experimentation with Gyrocopter Windranger support duo. Again, it looked really good in the early game there for AG. They managed to get their aggression up and running. And their lanes are still fairly aggressive as well, with, say, Gyrocopter Lifestealer can actually run down early on if you want to kind of be aggressive. But I think Talon just has the answers. And you said, like, the later game timing, I don't think it's actually that long with a Spectre now. Sure, Haunt in early levels is a massive cooldown, but Ags. You Ags up, Shadow Step out, Charge on top, Remnants on top, Inkswell on top of all of that. And they just have this hit and run capability from Talon to get going maybe by 15 to 20 minutes if Gabby farms fast enough.
Oh, I 100% agree with you, John. I'm not saying that Talon are going to play the slow game this game. I think that's part and parcel of the point here is AG might be the ones assuming that's going to happen. But I do agree with you. Once you have the eggs up on Gabby, you just go. There's just no reason to hold back with a draft like this.
Too old for this horse.
I suppose it is going to be very dependent on how well the mid game goes from Makoto. You want him to have a great laning stage on this Ember so he can get aggressive with the rest of his team. But at the same time, even if Makoto doesn't have a good laning stage, you've got KP to rely on from the off lane.
Yeah. You can always kind of just get going really early. We talked about AG going all in Terrorblade. You can still kind of scale on Talon's course, especially that Spirit Breaker. Like, late game Spirit Breaker, I've been seeing so much of it, I'd have to say it's nearly impossible to stop once you get Ags up. Right? Like, you just charge in, you get your Ag shard as well with a break mechanic on top of that, and free spell immunity. Just having this bash go through every single time through your BKBs will ruin AG's plans even with spell immunity. So I think you have to watch yourself at every stage of the game. Early game, you can be a bit more aggressive, but so can Talon. Mid game, there's some spikes for both sides. Late game, even with a Morphling and a Life Stealer, you're not in the clear yet. So we'll have to see when AG does find maybe a bit of an advantage for themselves to kind of work with their heroes and look to maybe shut the map down a bit more from Talon.
Hyde gonna meet Varish in that die jungle now. I mean, Missile already thrown out. Hyde, he won't mind. What are you eating a Tango? He'll just make his way down to the, or rather up to the top lane, where we do have KP on that Spirit Breaker. So it can be a very aggressive lane here from Talon in this off lane. Of course, DB probably doesn't want to get too aggressive too early on in this Life Stealer. Actually, against the MKSB duo, you are going to have Varish there on the gyro, so you may be able to negate some of the aggression that Talon might be able to pump out. You already see DB for now hanging around in the tree line. Not 100% confident where Hyde is. Hyde, he'll get right to work. Varish going to have to just immediately start working on zoning out Hyde in this Monkey King.
Yeah, it's not the easiest lane for Army Geniuses. Sure, level 1 looks a bit funny. It's 3 melee heroes and just 1 range support in Varish, but eventually once you hit, say, your level 2, level 3 spikes on Talon's end, this can be really aggressive, really fast. Charge in, you have to follow up Boundless Strike, maybe set up with a slow from the tree dance, and you can just run down Lifestealer. His laning phase is not his strong point, despite being a bit of a durable pause 1. Varish can only do so much with Homing Missile and Rocket Barrage. It's a good amount of damage, but these are 2 really tanky heroes on the side of Talon. And it's going to be very hard for Gyrocopter to just zone them out completely in this lane.
I mean, you say good amount of damage as well, John, but Hyde's basically dodged every homing missile so far with the Mischief, so he's getting stunned, but the damage is not really coming in here from Varish. Still, we'll have a look at the other lanes while we still have a chance. Of course, mid lane, Makoto going to be there against Azura on that mid Morphling. For now, Azura, I believe, will have a very good time. You are just immediately going to have the advantage with all the bonus damage you get from that Agimorph. So Azura going to have no issues CSing. I still kind of worry about the mid-game timing for the Morph, but at least for now, both heroes should be relatively fine, and I highly doubt many kills happen in this mid lane.
Yeah, I think for Azura, it's very important for him to win out in the creep war here. He's getting some good denies and range creeps, using his stuns at a well-timed point, and he's at level 3, so jumps in for Mikado is not going to happen. It is a little bit less important for the Morphling to control runes, so Mikado might have a little bit more room to get the bottle top-ups every single time once wave is shoved out, and that is one way the Ember can kind of self-sustain. I don't know if you can really expect supports to rotate in for Morphling. Like, you've got Wind Ranger and Jar who can make some early plays, but as we saw in game 1, you don't tend to do so. And with a Morphling to follow up for you, it doesn't feel particularly threatening. So I think it is going to be a bit more passive on the mid. The one advantage Mikado does have is maybe easier access to a small camp. You can stack up, clear up a bit faster with a Flame Guard. And for Azura, it's all about just straightforward right clicks. So not the quickest process, and Mikado still has a way of kind of at least keeping up pace up against Morph here.
Yeah. On the final lane, of course, bot lane, you've got Wami there on that Pango along with LYM. Gabby on that position 1 Spectre, along with Fly on the pos 5 Grimstroke. Gabby not having too rough of a time here on the Spectre. Seems like a very free lane so far for him. LYM and Wami pretty much unable to apply any pressure against the Spec, and I think that's kind of to be expected. You're always going to have the Grimstroke turnaround with the Ink Swap from Fly, so you don't want to get too aggressive on Gabby if you can avoid it. You'd much rather the Grimstroke, but it seems as though Wami is just pretty satisfied with securing his own CS for now, and won't even try to really chip away at either.
That is a worrying prospect of Mike, because if you give Gabby this initial farm up, again, we talked about Spectre timings. It's not that late anymore. You get into the Falcon Blade, you can kind of see where it goes from there. Maybe you rush the Axe, maybe you go for a Blade Mail first. Heck, we've still seen a couple of Echo Saber pickups, rarely, but it still does come true. So there's a lot of options for Gabby in terms of itemization. And if Wami doesn't put the lid on the Spectre's weakest point, which is early laning, that could just lead to a nice ramp up for Gabby. Like, farming war between Spectre and Lifestealer. Spectre kind of wins out just because you're a bit faster in the jungle with a dagger. So you can kind of just ramp up from there a little bit quicker, hit your item spikes and get running, and once you hit level 6, you don't even need much items on Gabby. You can just commit Haunt, and everyone else can follow up for him.
But they can. For now, definitely a great time for Talon. But I've got to say, Azura's having the best time right now on the map. That Morphling, 29 and 14 in terms of CS. Well and truly ahead of Makoto by about 9. A very, very good time for Azura at the very least. Good news here for Army Geniuses as Makoto has been slowed down just a little bit. You see Azura just, it's so easy to get those denies off from the Morphling. Makoto still struggling to just try and keep up. Azura will hit the level 6 mark first. Again, mind you, you're not expecting this Azura Morph to get aggressive, so levels don't really matter quite as much for Azura. You know, you hit the level 6 and it's all nice and well, but chances are he's not going to be able to use these levels for anything right now anyway. Much more important for Makoto to be able to secure his own levels on this Ember.
Yep, you just kind of want to start being able to rotate out. Maybe once you hit 6, you can look for that side lane movement out. I think you tend to see it at level 7, because that's when your items start to flow in, say Phase Boots or Corrosion up top, though they are being a bit aggressive here.
They're going to try. It's been a rather hard lane so far for Army Geniuses. They're now going to turn. KP hoping for a bash. There's one, and there's two. 17% from the Spirit Breaker, as DP cannot do anything to help out. Oh, you love it, don't you? There's nothing more satisfying than a double bash.
Oh yeah, and the tips come in from DB. All skill from KP, all calculated that move out. And Army Genius is going to give away a pretty good first blood out onto Talon. That is pretty big for KP. He's going to have his Soul Ring up and running. He's got the phase boots up. He's at level 5 now, just a little bit ahead of DB. Once you hit level 6, again, that global threat comes through. Charge up, Nether Strike out, the stuns, the controls there, the damage is going to be there. I think Talon's going to have to... Talon's going to hit a really big spike, and AG is going to have to watch out for themselves because they've got these really passive 2 cores on the Lifestealer and Morphling. There's a lot of room for Talon to be aggressive here.
There is. 1-0 so far. Tackle out onto Gabby bot lane, but again, they're unable to really make the dive in.
They always
Level
go
6
after
or not
the
on
courier.
Wami, which he isn't quite yet, but still very hard to even expect to try and kill off the Spectre. Fly's just been doing a fantastic job of zoning them out every time they try to get close. Of course, just keeping Gabby healed up constantly here on the Spec. KP top lane. Be chased down a little bit by Varish, but it's going to be a bit of damage. Nothing to write home about.
KP can always just TP home, charge back to lane. Nothing really being lost there. And it is buying a little bit more room for DB to farm up, and in that sense, our Lifestealer is having a pretty good time now. 14 to 13. All the cores of AG actually finding better CS in the lanes. I just don't know if that's going to be enough, because I don't feel like Talon's been slowing down too much at all in the laning phase. Still a very close game so far in the laning phase. Not many kills. Less than 1k net worth lead onto AG because of how efficient they are in the lanes. But the power spikes are lining up for Talon. Once we hit some of those early level 6s, you can expect that action to start ramping up in short order.
You can. The net worth is well and truly going the way of DB. And of course Azura. But hard lane or not for AG, they've still done a great job of just being able to secure that farm. That's all you really want when you've got such a greedy lineup from Army Geniuses, as now Varish is going to get spotted out by Hyde. Charges out immediately from KP and they want the kill. Bit of free gold if they can get it. Hyde, he'll get the Jingu Mastery proc going for himself. KP will rush forward, but Azura, he's got a haze strewn up, so he'll join the fray and try to go after Hyde instead. In fact, Talon, they've gone too far. Azura will be able to take his first kill of the game. And it's not like he quite needs it right now with the amount of gold he has, but he will accept it.
He'll take a freebie every single time, and Azura, our Morphling, is starting to grow pretty darn big early on. He's got the Morbid Mask up, he can Lifesteal True, Power Treads up and running as well. Wondering what he will opt for first. Is this going to be a Shotgun Morphling, or are we going to see, say, a Manta, focus on the right clicks, maybe in Sanjin Yasha's possibility there as well. And that will kind of dictate how aggressive Azura will be early on. I think the side of AG, again, they're winning out in farm. The side of Talon, just a little bit more patience to get those spikes up.
Oh, top lane, DB's in big trouble because Gabby has the Haunt up and they don't even really need it. He just comes in just in case they needed a bit of damage. But DB, he just melts.
Are those cracks in Dire's top tower?
They managed to get good supports rotations out as well. The Phantom's Embrace stopping the Ridge from coming out. And just run him down. Really good movement out from the side of Talon. This is going to open up a bit of a shove on that top tier one as well. Not the fastest push coming out from Talon here, Mike. The side of AG starting to clump up bot. They know there's no haunt for Gabby to kind of bail out. He will TP out early. He will avoid that gank attempt, but he should be trading that bot tier 1 for his life as well.
Mid lane, tier 1 tower going to be denied off, but Azura, he won't mind that. Still a great tower to get here for AG. Setting up to overtake the jungle very early on, and again, we talked about this during the draft. You could find yourself in a position where you've lost your jungle as the Dire, and that'd be so detrimental with this kind of draft, but they get that mid-tier 1 very early on here thanks to Azura, and that should slow down Talon's timing for their own mid-tier 1.
They're beating on Dire's top tower.
It gives them a lot more time to build up on the really greedy cores. We are already seeing some early item spikes coming through. DB almost has the armlet up, so that's going to set up for the Lifestealer to maybe look for Infest place if they feel like it, and start running around, leveraging some of that durability up front. Side of Talon still working on the top. They do manage to eventually take that top tier 1. So they're giving some space out for Gabby to farm up. Still not seeing what he's itemizing for next on that Spectre mic. Could be the Ags, could be something else to help him farm up and just tank up a bit. But I think this is when we start to approach a moment where AG is feeling a little bit stronger. And we saw this same kind of timing in game 1. Around the 10 to 20 minute mark, AG did look fantastic. I think they need to play that same aggression as we saw in game 1 at this point. You know, start hunting down, pressuring Gabby perhaps, taking some more towers as fast as you can, and keep building up on DB and Azura to ensure that their Morphling and Lifestealer will be set for when Talon decides to jump in.
Oh, absolutely. For now, it looks like Hyde's just keeping up with the vision over the side of Army Genius, is just getting that information over to his team. It doesn't seem like Talon are quite ready to make the jump in yet. I suppose without Horn, you just want that little bit of bonus for Gabby if you can have it. They're very patient. Meantime, Hyde does get spotted here by Wami, but going to be able to Primal Spring his way out. And he's just worried about getting his own info for his team. However, mid lane, Makoto kind of being stalked right now. Rotation out from Army Geniuses if they can find him. Shackle's not going to land to a tree. Makoto is still fine to try and get himself out, and he does have remnants available with the homing missile. It's going to fly in, but he's already well and truly gone as KB now. He's going to rush for a charge in. Cooldown is going to connect to Azura. He comes straight away for the Spirit Breaker kill, and he is going to be able to find it. They are unable to help out KB as now the chains are out. Makoto gets caught. Really nice play there from Azura. And it's immediately up towards that top lane to start harassing Gabby. Now Gabby gonna be chained up. He will pop the horn. He'll head down to the bot lane instead, but now DB will get to work. But they've got Hyde there, just in case they need it. And in fact, DB, he's being watched very carefully as the charge will start from KP. They want something that's gonna make it worthwhile for the death of Makoto. DB is completely alone, but he does have the Infest to rely on. And in fact, KP, he's not even going to bother trying. DB probably would have been fine anyway, so they just don't waste their time.
That does not look good.
They're making some great work with the aggression on AG's side now. Talon, a bit disjointed there with a charge in from KP. They didn't quite have the follow through to ensure that they can take control on top of that fight. And AG now, because of those pickoffs, are at a 2k advantage. They're having a great time just building up on Azura, building up on their Lifestealer. Armlet already up for DB, makes him a very hard target to pin down. The side of Talon are looking to gun through that mid-tier 1 though, evening out map control. AG does have some presence here. They don't have a Rolling Thunder yet though.
They've got Wami silence out with the install combination. Should be enough to take him out, and it is. Azura in the meantime though does get Fly. Do you at least get a support for your trouble? And AG will successfully defend the mid-tier 1.
Yeah, they hold on to it, so they keep control on their jungle, keep buying time for the course to farm up because of all that movement onto mid as well. DB is just free to work that bot lane, and Lifestealer is just being left alone, which is surprising. We talked about Talon maybe playing a lot more aggressive once they had Charge and Nether Strike up. They do have those options available, but again, the angles they've been finding haven't been strong enough, and still down mid, Mikato.
Wyoming's looking for that shackle angle again, but he's not going to be able to find one. Kodo TPing out without the vision there for AG. They weren't able to cancel. They can see the remnant. Makoto's going to come back. LYM still being very patient.
To Radiant's bottom tower.
Do they commit for this? Hides around now and Sentry is down, so I don't quite think so. They've waited too long. Smoke out. Kodo not going to have his smoke broken. Wrap around. That DB is being charged right now, so he'll make the jump in with the silence out, but no, he's got the rage off. He's fine for now, but the charge is still going. In fact, KP, he does make his way over, and DB's gone straight off the bat for Rich. He'll try to survive, but there's no chance in hell. In fact, KP, he's gone after Azura now. They've got the chains out. The Morphling, he'll try to man fight, and looks like he will be okay, at least for now. The chase does continue as Azura. He's not out of danger yet. Charge does connect in the Inkswell. It's going to be more than enough, but here comes Wami with a massive rolling thunder out. He's got at least one. Can he find another? They will find Hyde. KB, Gabby, they're still in trouble, but Gabby, he barely gets out with his life attack. Like now, Wami, no, they still found Gabby, but they'll find Wami as a trade, it seems, as Makoto does get a double kill. And so in the end, a 3-for-3 trade. Wami just turning the team fight around for AG. And I don't even know how Gabby went down, but he just slowly ticked down the high ground.
Yeah, because the urn from Wami, just enough damage coming through on that tick to take him out. It did end up being a full team wipe actually for AG. A bit staggered out, but they did manage to find everything. And that's the aggression we were looking for from Talon. Once they can get running, it's easy for them to isolate these weak cores, start running them down, get the damage off, get the control off. And that was a fight without the full Spirit Vessel on Hyde. Once that's up and running, Azura is going to have an even tougher time to sustain himself in these team fights. He will have the Manta style of his own ready, so there's going to be a Dispel on hand to help him in the middle of these fights against that Spirit Vessel. But the Town still are building up the answers here, Mike. AG though, looking for opportunities, so.
Makoto, he's remnanted right into the gyro, but Wami not going to pop the Rolling Thunder. Doesn't have the blink to initiate yet, but they do land the stun out, so Wami, he's going to keep going. Spirit Vessel's there, Makoto, he's ticking up very slowly and is going to end up going down. He did not have the mana for remnants, so Wami, he might die, but it's all worthwhile. In fact, maybe he won't die. The Rolling Thunder cancelled off. Oh, he cancelled off the Rolling Thunder. Yikes.
Yeah, I think he was trying to conserve it for a follow-up fight. Now it still gets expended anyway, so a bit unfortunate. But Talon probably not going to ask those questions. It's still a better trade for AG in the end, and as they do manage to take Makoto out, a much bigger target for them to find. However, that kill did give Hyde his full Spirit Vessel. So he's got fresh charges. They can actually hunt for Azura. They can even put a stop just a little bit onto that life healer as well, stop some of that sustain from coming through. And while they're doing all of this, Mike, they're stalling out for KP to actually hit his Axe timing. So we're going to have that lower cooldown of Charge of Darkness. We're going to have it pierce through the spell immunity soon. And that just makes this game a very tough game for DB because he's relying a lot on Rage to just stand forward and get his hits off. KP's going to counteract that immediately.
There you go. Soulbite is out. KP, he'll go for a big charge out, landing 2 stuns onto Wami and DB. But the Infest is there, and Wami will remain safe as now Azura does join and they want to force the fight. Rolling Thunder up in 5. They'll just chase down Fly first. Fly is proving to be a little bit hard to catch as KP will rush right through them, just in case they needed the bash. Army Geniuses unable to reinitiate and force the fight they wanted. Are going to be forced to back off. Talon, they'll do the exact same.
Yeah, they just get a reset. I think they're very happy with the space they're getting out here on Talon's side. This is a lot of room for Gab to just farm. Not completely safe. Wami is keeping him in check. But he does have the Echo Saber up now on the spec and is rushing into the Ags. So you are slowly hitting those item beats on Talon, whereas for AG, they are getting bigger and bigger. DB's almost got the full SNY. Azura has the Manta up, so he's protected from that Spirit Vessel and is rushing onto the Scotty. There's a lot of answers coming through here, and it's that spike where both teams' power spikes kind of overlap. Like, towards 20 minutes, maybe 30, 35 minutes, both sides will have a lot to play with. So it all boils down to vision, to map control, and so far I think AG does have the forward wards to ensure they've got the angles to play aggressive, but you can't ever discount Talon because of the haunt, because of the tree dance from the Monkey King. It will allow them to scout out just as much as these wards are giving them info.
A lot of damage from Makoto onto LYM. One slider fist and he just takes out half his HP. It's now Roshan is going to get started from Army Geniuses. Talon, they have no idea this is happening. No vision around the Roshan pit. So Azura and the gang can get a very early Aegis for themselves. Looking around from Talon is going to be KB, but he's going to have no idea. Nice little pick up there from Army Geniuses. This will allow them to buy even more time and have even a bigger advantage in the next team fight, whenever that is going to come in. For now, though, I think Talon, they'll probably want to avoid the side of AG. Just keep farming up on Gabby and get to the point where the Spectre is just out of control. They are actually watching DB right now on that life stealer, but in the mid lane, uh-oh, Makoto, he got caught out, but can they perma stun him? Oh, they can. He had no remnants out. so he had no way to get away from Wommy.
Yeah, that's a bit greedy for Mikado. At least he does cut through the mid wave, so tier 2's not going to be in pressure.
He's gonna get charged, but he's by the tier 1 tower, John, so he's always got the initiation from his team if he needs it. So everyone from Talon again just has to run, and the best you really get out of this, or you might find a KP kill because LYM catches him mid-charge. Oh, KP is going to try to run. It's a very hard escape to make. He'll charge again though with the axe up, and Azura, he's got his own charge available. KP could not escape the Morphling.
Gotta love that Varish got the timing right for the call down. The missile landed as KP is charging in. So they do find 1 kill. I think Talon could have lost a lot more. They're gonna have to cut their losses, but AG knows they've got an opening. They smoke up his tree. They're gonna look for the angle. The Spirit Breaker form and Morphling he's talking about, Mike, it's in play. Azura can just kind of use that charge to his own advantage in gap closing and catching the backline here as well.
I mean, what's more annoying is the status resist he gets with the bulldoze, I think. I mean, charge is pretty annoying, but that bulldoze status resist is just ridiculous to try and deal with when you're trying to fight a Morphling. So you've got the Aghanim Scepter now up on Gabby, and that might be time for them to try and go for a bit of a surprise reveal and get a few pickoffs for themselves. They haven't had much luck yet, but everything is basically online now.
Snow fortified their structures.
See if they can get it done. In the meantime, though, Army Geniuses, nice, easy bottom T2 tower to take.
Dire's middle tower isn't going to last
No
long.
contention whatsoever from Talon. They might force high ground, and they will. They do have the Aegis up on Azura. They want to force Talon to try and fight and defend this tier 3.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
And Talon
attack.
has to make a choice. They're kind of staggering in their movement. They are getting some vision out with high. They could try to rip the backline first, but the tower's just not so fast, so it's risk damage here.
They're going to find LYM. That's a great way to start with the Wind Ranger gone. Wommy, he'll try to Rolling Thunder through. Azura, he's looking to back out right now. So no real big initiation yet from AG as they try to TP up, but KP's got the charge. And Wommy, well, he's still making his escape, but Hyde does have the vision over. So Talon, they're able to find 2 for their trouble. But they do lose their tier 3 tower for that.
It's a pretty big sacrifice they made, giving all that time to AG to just kind of play hit and run. They still hold on to the Aegis here on Azura as well. And I like this coming out from AG. DB's just constantly investing.
Nice chains down Makoto with a boundless strike from Hyde, and they make the jump in. Barish is gone, but they still have Azura with the second life. LYM's gone, however. Wukong's command down. They really want that Morphling second life. In fact, never mind, they want TB on that life stealer. Makoto still getting chains out, but it's not going to be enough to force the life stealer's hand, or is it? With KP charging in with the Inkswell, they've got plenty of lockdown, but they need some damage. Hyde has the boundless strike, and he's got the information necessary as DB got greedy. Oh, he got too greedy. Not appreciating the Monkey King vision. And they do indeed find the life stealer in the end.
Yeah, so they sacrificed the tier 3, but they found a lot of big kills. I think it's still kind of worthwhile for Talon. This does give AG that access point onto the high ground. So in case the fight does drag on for too long, someone can always just look down bot, shove in, force a racks out. And that could be the way AG kind of plays now. It's sort of just forcing attention elsewhere. Talon are starting to hit their really big spikes now, though. Like, the charges coming through from KP are getting really hard to manage. He's almost at the BKB here as well, Mike. So interrupting the Spirit Breaker charge is going to be very difficult now. You might have to expend Soulbind, and even then, there has to be someone next to him to kind of interrupt it. And you don't have that option because, well, Grimstroke's on Talon's side. So for the side of AG,
Dire's middle tower
they've got the BKB up in Azura. They're going on to the Scotty next. And DB's build-up is focused on the damage. He's going for the Crystallis. Again, I like what they've been doing and just playing Infest on a Morphling to give him more HP. They're not really being aggressive with Infest on DB yet.
Oh, touchdown. DB, he got spotted for a second, but Wommy's there to help out, so the balance strike is there. They've locked it down. DB cannot survive long enough. Not long enough to help out his team, that is. But they found Gabby on that Spectre. That could be a great trade if Gabby does go down, but he's making his way up, but no. They do find him. Wommy's got him. Now flying. In fact, never mind that. Wukong's command down from Hyde. Barish is gone, but they'll at least get KP as a trade. A 3 for 2 thus far in the favor of Army Geniuses. And it was a great start, but it does seem like DB was baiting for his team. They go in again though. LYM being targeted. Makoto does get caught out, but he does have the Yule Scepter. He does have the Remnant away. Be just fine to make his exit. AG, they probably will be satisfied with those trades.
They do manage to put a dent in Talon's aggression. Great counterplay coming through from AG. Just having Wami ready with a roll, blinking in to break up that initiation. Manages to buy enough time for them to make up for it. Like, yeah, you still lose DB, but you manage to clean up with Azura. He is your bigger scaling core anyway, so you're happy enough to give him the gold and build up. And this is a lot closer for game coming out here from AG. 16 to 13, less than 1k lead, bouncing back onto AG's end. Talon, and they've still got the haunts to play with. They've still got late game item scaling to come through. They have to be really careful about how they commit. I think they need at least the BKB to be up and running here to really get started. And you can just see a shadow step. It makes it really easy to just scare off a support. Just jump in, you know, get the Orchid off and jump out, and suddenly someone has to run back to base.
Yeah, I mean, you love the Orchid pick up there from Gabby. That solo pick-off potential on these supports, and that's always appreciated as a Spectre. AG, the net worth lead is kind of bouncing back between these two teams, so there's no real leader yet. It does still feel like Army Geniuses might be the stronger team with their own draft, but Talon have been kind of proving that wrong.
They're beating on Dire's top tower.
They start to look towards that top tier 2 tower. Kind of hard to commit for this though, because you do have the bot lane being pushed in. Hyde, he'll try to get a bit of chip damage as they do move in now onto Varish. They found a solo gyrocopter, but he does have his infest around with the life stealer. He'll be able to keep Varish safe. Gabby, he didn't really commit all the way anyway. Just trying to scare him off again.
Just kind of zoning out the softer targets of AG, getting some information out as well. The side of Talon, they really need this top tier 2. If they can take outputs, they can try to secure next Roche. And that will set them up a lot better with 2 lives on Gabby, maybe even 2 lives on Mikado if they feel like the Ember's a bit more impactful, and kind of run from there. AG, again, doing a great job of just keeping up in farm. Azura is still #1 on the Morphling, a 3k lead above Mikado. Scotty's almost up, and that could be the big timing they need to have more stats, some great slows, and some healing reduction coming through from Morph to keep Talon in check from these chases. That can make it a lot harder for them to just run up and get the damage off, especially for Gabby. If his dagger is off cooldown, he's getting Scotty'd up. It's not going to be easy for him to run forward and do some damage here.
But teams just still sitting on opposite sides of the map, neither one really wanting to commit too hard quite yet. KP will make his presence known around DB. And I do believe that Talon are only interested in that top tier 2 tower for now, as they want the outpost back. In fact, never mind that. They're going to smoke up as 3 and move down south. If KP got the vision, they'll move in now. The horn down. Who have they got? It's going to be Wami straight off the back going down as LYM. He will drop to boot. Who else have you found though? They'll move into the backside again. They've got the high ground now with Azura. Wami, he just bought back. They want to try and get a team fight going. Talon, they're not really given the opportunity over. Wami's trying his best. Nice blink back onto Makoto. Charges there. It's not going to be enough. They had the silence out on the Ember, and now KP's in a bit of trouble himself as he does get caught. So Makoto, a little bit too aggressive on the Ember, does give AG a way of making that buyback of Wami worthwhile.
It does work out for AG in the end. They find a couple of big kills. I think you really have to watch yourself when you give away that Ember Spirit form onto the Morph, and that does mean Mikado is going to try to build up onto the Lincolns instead. They're trying for Roche, but it's not the fastest process, and DB does count that out. Oh, the bash.
Oh. Wow.
The Roche bash saved.
Thank you, Roshan.
My goodness.
Roshan obviously paying paying Roshan quickly before he makes his exit from that Roshan, but still AG, they will take their revenge straight off the bat. But Gabby, he tries to steal, but he does not get it. Nice attempt, but Azura, too quick with the fingers, is able to take it himself. And Joel, would you believe it? What rune spot? There's a double damage rune there.
As is tradition, Mike, Azura is set to do a lot of right-click damage in front line, and Well, they're still smoked up here on AG's end. Talon just kind of lagging a bit behind. They're not lagging behind big in net worth, but Azura's just way too big in Morphling. Has the beekeeper to protect him now. KP
Charges out, nice charge timing. The gust is going to slow it down a little bit, but they can't actually stop him with the charge. Homing missile just flying across the map. You know, he does have the shards in the homing missile, so, you know, if the rocket was close enough, John, that might have been enough, but KP's just a bit too fast though. Azura now has his own charge up, going toward that top lane, but Gabby is able to TP out in time.
Beating on Dire's top tower.
Instead, they'll go after Makoto, but he will also remnant out at the right time. So nobody being caught by army geniuses.
Dire's
Everyone is safe from Talon.
Gone.
They've just got to be very persistent in ensuring they do not get caught while this Aegis is up on Azura.
Just a lot of patience that has come through from Talon. They will go for a smoke as Fordo. Maybe looking to find a soft pick off here. Side of AGR in a really good position to break that, mainly on the high ground of the triangle. So it doesn't look like Talon will be able to find a good angle to really fight in here. As AG, they've taken the top tier 1, only one outer tower left for Talon. And again, they're getting really big on their course. They'll go for a smoke play. I think the edge of that was caught out by the obs ward, so Talon might have an idea as to what's going on now this time.
But they will. They'll hold the high ground. KP, he'll go for a charge in and break the smoke. This is a bit dangerous, but a boundless strike will be there to hold them back. Still KP dropping fast. We'll get another strike off. Down the Haunted, Gabby, he'll be there. They want the backside. They've got LYM down that Wind Ranger, but they'll buy back, and so will Barish. They really want to commit for this team fight, as they have at least found Fly on the Grimstroke, and now they even found KP out with a great shackle from LYM. They at least get 2 for their trouble. Is it worth the double buybacks? It's debatable. It is very debatable.
I think it is, because you got KP. You got a bigger target. You can kind of force the high ground. You still have Aegis on Azura. So the racks are very exposed on bot lane, and you're down your one big initiator on Talon. You don't have the charge to worry about. So the backline's really protected, and the objective should just fall. Azura gets work done on bot, and you're keeping mid shoved in as well.
Yeah, it's no longer debatable, Duck. They got a racks out of it. Definitely worth the buybacks from Army Geniuses, as KP was only 200 gold short of having buyback available. So AG, they didn't know that was the case, but it won't matter. KP just not holding on to enough gold. Azura, he'll just keep going onto that T3 tower. They're trying to slow him down, but it's not going to be good enough yet. Azura, he'll just be so confident with the infest out to keep going. There's so many ways of survival here as they do move in. Makoto just trying to land the Inkswell out. Instead though, Gabby, he's into the backside. Die back onto LYM and now die back onto Barish. This could be the team fight they needed, but they've lost Makoto. They've lost the Ember. He's going to fight back and try to rejoin this team fight as they'll move on to Wami. They want that Pango dead. Wami, he'll die back as well if he does go down, but Azura trying to protect. Gabby now trying to back off. They haven't got the damage yet. Wami though, and caught out again. Hyde still trying, but nobody going down. Wami still being stalked here by Hyde. Eventually does go down to Makoto, but now Azura will get right to work onto that Ember. And there are no remnants available for Makoto, but they have made the jump in onto the Morphling now. DB's trying to help out. They do not want to lose Azura like this, but it won't matter. Azura's still alive with the Aegis up, so he'll have 2 lives available. So Azura, he'll lose 1. Can they get him a second time? Chains are there, but he wants to force a fight. Chains out on Makoto. Yule's around though. KP charging in again to try and protect his Ember. As Makoto now, he'll remnant towards the left. Army Geniuses. That'll be enough for them, it seems like, but Hyde, he'll keep up the vision. It does seem like that'll be enough.
They're still in a good spot here in AG, despite dropping a couple of diebacks in the end. Azura is still alive, only loses the Aegis, which was set to expire anyway. I think the big issue right now for Talon is actually damage. Like, eating through Azura is fairly hard, especially if DB gets the infest off. Like that flash healing coming through from Life Shield, a very defensive playstyle of DB to protect Azura. It's causing multitudes of issues for Talon. Like, they just don't have the burst damage on hand to deal with it.
Shadow step in. Just temporarily there from Gabby, but again, it's just all about the vision to allow the charge onto LYM. There's no buyback on LYM. In fact, now, great chase down. Makoto, he's all two of them down, as Varish is slowly ticking away, but KP's gone. They at least found one. Hyde, nice Wukong's command onto Azura, but there's no real damage. Still, they got the two supports again for the side of Talon, and that'll buy them more time. They only lost KP for that.
It's still a really good trade out from Talon. They're digging through this gold lead that AG has had for a while, down to just 5k now from a 7k, 8k peak. So they're holding out well. Issue is they've got two lanes that will always shove in. They haven't made progress on these outer towers as well from AG's side. So mid tier 2 still stands, bot tier 1 still stands, limiting the map space and push potential of the side of Talon. And I think they've got to kind of rectify that. At the same time, I think they might have to wait for next Roche. We'll see in about a minute and a half when the timer is. They have to be in a good position to contest it this time around. They can't afford to let AG get Roche number 3 and just run down again with Aegis Cheese and either an Ag's Blessing or a Refresh Shard. That's going to cause way more issues for Talon, as they've already kind of struggled in forcing these fights out. Having Cheese and Aegis makes it a lot harder.
Oh, balance again from Hyde. They'll make the jump in onto DB. That'll be the primary target. The line's still at DB so low already, but he's alive. He'll get the infest off onto LYM. They'll continue though. Azura making the charge out. Makoto, he's still alive, but for how long? He'll die back on the Ember. That's not a great start for Talon whatsoever. There's now the backside. Another great balance strike out. They'll at least find Varish down. But KP now, he's been caught out. The charge is in from Azula. He's going to die to his own charge out. Tips are there for the morph. It's a very tough time for Talon, as they just cannot win out these team fights.
No, they're lacking some really hard bursts to take care of some of those longer cores. At the least, Gabby assassinates LYM. So he does at least find a hero to trade off, but I think AG is still in a good position to go for the high ground. Azura is just nearly unkillable. With a Satanic up, with a Manta, there's a lot of dispels on hand. And again, they've been so defensive with the infest uses, just looking to save out their big core if possible. Azura on the Morphlinks just so hard to control. I think Talon's got to find a way just instantly lock down Azura, prevent the morphs from coming out, because once he turns into Ember or Spirit Breaker, he makes use of those spells really well. Like, he gets his own charge, he gets his own Searing Chains, and that just stops Talon's fight across the board. They just can't afford to give that possibility out to Azura.
Absolutely not. You've got to give props as well. Like, we doubted this draft from Army Geniuses quite a bit, but it seems as though DB's main focus is to just keep Azura alive. So he's almost like a weird support pos one in some senses. Hyde is going to get spotted out there for a second. Okay, to link through the tree line and just get the hell out. Still, AG just first dibs on this next Roshan, which is up in 25 seconds. They are going to leave the pit for now. Talon, they'll have the information that AG are looking for that next Roshan immediately as it spawns. Now, though, it's going to be all about those tier 4 items. Trying to gather them as you can for Talon. They are going to need every bonus they can get. Roshan, well, it's up in 1. Bruce will get the info over. See how Talon tries to counter this one out. Oh, there's an Axe on there as well. An Axe Blessing for your Morphling is already there as well. Can you believe that?
Yeah. What more could you ask for? It's going to be a lot for Talon to have to work against. They do have the Haunt, but they need to move quick. They need to find an angle to work this Roshan to their advantage. Good scan from AG though. Does force them out.
You want LYM and Varish both dead first if you can get it. Roshan half HP is Makoto. He'll check the pit one more time.
Dyer's courier has been killed.
Courier down for Varish, and that'll give the position away from Talon. I think Talon, as long as they know the Roshan's not going down, they'll be happy. Oh, Hyde, he has his creep drop down. Charge in immediately from KP with the Spinal X out. But nobody's dying yet. As Hyde, nice bound strike in. They've got LYM, Soulbind out as well. The Infest trying to save. Now Gabby, he'll pop the horn. LYM's gone straight up the bat. Buyback will be there. Gabby, he's going to be very careful, but so does Makoto on the Ember, who's been permanent stunned up. Makoto not again. He's going to drop. Azura's got him another time. As now Talon, they need a way out of this team fight, but it's not going to be that easy. They dropped 2 straight off the bat.
Too old for this horse.
LYM, yeah, he committed a buyback, but it's well worth it. And now Roshan can resume for Army Geniuses. So I don't think Talon can really try and defend this. Your best hope is Hyde or Gabby trying to sneak their way in, but it's too late. Axe and Aegis up on Azura. And things are about to get a hell of a lot more fun if you're an Army Geniuses fan.
Oh yeah, I think for Talon, they've got a couple of big issues for us. We talk about Mikado's item build-up. He was trying to go Olympians to block off the form of Azura into Ember, but he doesn't have a BKB. The moment he yields us up, Wami's just in there looking for the opportunity to roll him down, and I think he needs that spell immunity on the Ember to stand up front. Like, there's just no way you play along against Wami's great rolls, and it's just such a consistent issue. And AG, with all the protection they have, with this huge advantage, RG's going to gun for the top set of racks. There is still a range racks on mid, so they're going to have to swing around for that for the Megas. It does feel like Talon's running out of options in order to keep this defense going.
Oh, backside, LYM. He'll be able to survive, though. Hyde moving in, again, getting the vision over. Barish, he's the target. Hyde, just trying to find a way out now, is pouncing through the trees, and looks like he will make it as Wami. He can't quite keep up. Zura, he's kind of been left alone. Charge is there, but he does have 2 lives plus BKB Satanic and Lincoln's for that matter. So Makoto will move in again to the backside onto Barish. They want that gyrocopter. Barish already so darn low. Makoto, he'll get the job done, but who else can they find? KP, he's already quite low himself as Azura. He found Fly on the Brimstroke, but they've got Wami in the tree line. Aeon Disc, it'll be procs. Wami still alive, gets the roll up as Wukong's is there, but Azura, he's having a man fight. KP, he'll keep charging in and out. Another strike not there, and KP, he's gonna drop. No buyback available now. They can really clean up. Gabby, he's trapped between a rock and a hard place, but he'll walk down of there. Instead, they'll try to Wami again, but he is still surviving on this Pango. He will not die. The DB will keep chasing down Makoto, who's practically out of mana. That was his last remnant. Even with the axe up, and Mega Creeps are now up and available for Army Geniuses.
Oh, Hyde.
Oh, they found Hyde. Great pickup here for AG, as they might just keep going. In fact, I think Azura, he's into the base. He's onto the T4 towers. Azura just has no fear right now. Chains down again. We'll try to slow him down, but it's very... Oh, and Gabby dies as well. He does have fiber. He's going to have to commit as the Ancient is now exposed. Azura, he's going to wait for him out. Wait for his team to re-engage with him. Wait for him forward. They'll go on to Hyde. Hyde just did buy back. Azura, he is slowly being chipped away at, but again, he has the Aegis up. They'll in fact ignore the side of Talon, and they're right onto the Ancient now. Talon, you've got to do something right here, right now. Azura, he's ignored them, and the GG's called. About all they can do is just call the GG as Army Geniuses. To say this draft, we doubted it so much, but the way they played it is so damn impressive. I mean, you look at the item.
5 seconds remaining. Radiant team ban. Dire team's turn to ban. Radiant team's turn to ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire team's turn to pick. Radiant team's turn to pick.
Gyro contact!
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Radiant team's turn to pick.
Monkey King.
Let's get on with it!
If I go in, I might die. If I go in, I might die.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire team's turn to pick.
Ultra Magi!
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Dire team ban. Radiant team ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
Provavelmente é o Wind. Arm de desistir ali Queen of Pain. Provavelmente eles vão colocar esse Razor no mid. Se bem que eles tiraram também a Queen of Pain no outro jogo. Queen of Pain é muito consistente, né? É um mid laner bem tranquilo, ganha muitos dos matchups, tem muita rotação, muito dano explosivo. A rainha do mid que tá sendo agora. Mas nisso também a Arm Jesus pode trazer ainda a Lina. Talon agora que vê, né? Ok, que vamos trazer pra jogar contra esse Razor. Spirit Breaker ainda tá em aberto. Então é bastante interessante trazer... Ok, mesmos bans. A única coisa que mudou da primeira partida é o Razor.
O Razor foi em resposta, né? E tipo, pra mudar um pouco a ótica de picks. OD removido também, né? Que é um pick que atrapalharia muito a execução de Razor e também, né? Consegue a prisão astral defensiva ali durante um míssil, por exemplo.
Sim.
Que facilita demais pra alguém continuar na sobrevida ali. E, bom, a Talon Vai ter o próximo banimento agora. Vamos ver o que eles removem, né? Igual você falou, o Spirit Break está em aberto. Perdão? Não entendi.
Eu tô tentando lembrar o que eles trouxeram de ban no primeiro jogo. Era Viper, acho que eles tinham banido o OD. E daí por último tinha... Não lembro. Enfim, mas era algum ban também que era bom contra o MK. Não me recordo.
Nossa,
enfim, ok. O ban de Beastmaster quebrou isso. Beastmaster que é muito bom, porque consegue ter visão do MK ali, né? Com a águia. Tem uma lane muito forte, tem um push muito forte, né? Beneficia muito o Razor, que tem esse... É uma escolha para um jogo um pouco mais acelerado.
5 seconds remaining.
Apesar de que a gente viu que foram 2 jogos bem extensos, né? 2 com mais de 40 minutos, o que não é muito comum disso acontecer aqui na Sudeste da Ásia e China. Normalmente, acho que os jogos estão acabando ali nos seus 27, 20... máximo 30 minutos de jogo. Mas, enfim. Vejo que a Talon é sempre um pouco mais freada, assim, né? Sobre a execução do timing deles. Ok, ambos os times agora estão gastando bastante tempo. Pra Talon é muito importante essa vitória, sair do 0 ali, né? Sair do 0-2. A Armedinas está um pouco menos pior, tá 1-1 por enquanto. Ok, retiram o Morphling. Muito importante, principalmente porque é outro herói que consegue também sair do Razor. Se beneficia da sede de sangue do Ogre. E Morphling não gosta de jogar contra heróis que tenham controle instantâneo. E aparentemente a Armedinas não vai trazer isso agora. A Talon poderia deixar esse MK como HC e trazer um Lion agora nessa última escolha. Nisso. Só que talvez o Timber seja ok, apesar de o Timber ser bem chato na lane, o MK consegue, né, jogar contra ele, igual a gente viu no primeiro jogo. Tirou uma medusa. Válido.
Medusa removida, eles vêm aqui com o pick de Death Prophet, passou o monstrão, vai fazer volume de teamfight, a Armedinas agora tem que lidar contra esse pick, né?
Acabaram trazendo ali a doideira, né, do Razor, tomou uma Death Prophet.
10 seconds remaining.
Gosto bastante da DP, ela tem aparecido e tem tido bastante impacto. A Armedinas tem
5
que
seconds remaining.
talvez responder com dano explosivo. Principalmente Doom eu acho bastante interessante de trazer aqui. Tá certo que ele tem uma lane péssima contra o MK, mas pode pôr esse Doom no mid, por exemplo. Descondenar em cima da DP ou até futuramente, né, no outro core. Como vir, acho bem ok. Don Lion seria talvez uma combinação bem bacana.
Lion, eu concordo que Lion passou, é um pick muito bom. Pode lidar com DP, inclusive, né, com dano mágico explosivo. Tem a Wind aberto. Será que eles vão pra Wind de novo? Eu acho que talvez não vai funcionar muito bem pra esse jogo, né?
Não sei.
Não, Flare.
Eu gosto da Wind, só que tem um controle bacana, mas não sei se é tão bom assim. Mirana.
Ok, Mirana então, tem Flecha Sagrada, tem Chuva Estelar, Sombra Lunar também. Habilidades que podem beneficiar ali a equipe da Armedinas de alguma forma, mas ainda assim... E aí, gostou, Flare? Tipo...
Eu particularmente gostei não.
Expressivo, né? Tipo,
eu acho que teria muito... acho que tem uns sub 4 bem melhores. O Wing, por exemplo, tá em aberto, seria muito boa. O Lion tá em aberto, seria muito bom. Mas, ok, agora faz sentido trazer essa dupla. Né? É uma combinação, setup ali de Stone Arrow bem expressivo. A gente tinha muito no meta passado, né, o DK e a Mirana, que era um combo de stun que praticamente quem caísse não tancava. Então a gente via muito da DK Mirana, ou tinha um Abaddon ou coisa do tipo pra tentar salvar, porque senão era caixão. E aqui agora a gente vê, né, SK Mirana. Gosto da ideia da Sombra Lunar, né? Ela que tem ali no talento 15, se eu não me engano, é esquiva, né? 20% de esquiva se tiver quem tá no efeito da sombra. Bastante válido. E tem potencial de rotação e muitos kills ali, né? Não só com o Sand King, mas também com o giro. Kills não, né? Mas assim, encanchar as flechas. Ok. Agora tá um pouco mais tranquilo. Se fosse uma Mirana aleatória, assim, eu ia ficar tipo...
Anti-mage.
Eita, Lelê!
Anti-mage pro time da Talon Esports. Curioso, considerando que a gente tem o Sand King, consegue de alguma forma controlar ele, né? Mesmo se ele utilizar o escudo de mana ali. É isso
na verdade,
da habilidade? É isso? Tipo, Spell Shield? Como é que chama? Escudo de feitiço? Anti-feitiço?
Contra feitiço.
Contra feitiço, só isso o nome da habilidade. Mas é aquilo, tipo assim, eu acho que ainda tem vias de controle pra cima da Anti-Mage e fazer um lockdown. sabem
Então,
como fazer isso. Diga, Flávio.
Na verdade, se ele abre o contra feitiço, ele não é stunado. Ele stuna de volta. Ele, tipo, reflete, dá uma Linken's e Lotus, né? E a lane dele é muito, muito, muito forte contra esse cara. Então, meio que já anulou esse combo com essa escolha. Não tem controle, assim, pra ele. Tanto, talvez a Armidines traga, sei lá, uma Naga, um Void. Aí seria ok, tem bastante dano, né? Principalmente pro Void, mas eu acho que a Talon não vai deixar passar, não.
A missão que eu fiz foi mais no sentido assim, tipo, vamos iniciar no momento que ele não tem visão, sei lá.
Entendi.
Talvez na rota, sei lá, reagir a um golpe subterrâneo também é meio específico, né? Mas eu acho que é possível, sim, reagir a um golpe subterrâneo com contra-feitiço. E o que eu quis dizer é mais no sentido que é um controle expressivo, que pode acabar encaixando de forma surpresa ali contra esse anti-mage. Mas é isso, você pontuou perfeitamente. Storm Spirit agora é o banimento aqui do time da Army Genesis. Teve banimento também de Terrorblade, perdão. E agora vemos aqui os 2 últimos banimentos. E esse Razor tá meio que flexível ainda. Vai mid, vai HC, o que eles vão fazer com esse Razor, né? Eu acho que Razor e Girocóptero na lane eles vão conseguir lidar contra o Death Prophet de alguma forma. É muito dano mágico. Talvez ela tenha que rushar um capuzinho, né? Tipo, pra tancar um pouquinho do dano na lane. PA banida e Puck banida também, né? Pelo time da Army Geniuses. Então eles acreditam que essa DP vai ser um offlaner e não um mid laner. Então, vamos ver que é a última escolha da Army Genius, Flare.
Esses Void tá aberto, eu acho que é super ok contra o Anti-Mage. A Naga também é muito boa.
10 seconds remaining.
Apesar de ser um pouquinho chato de executar, né? Graças ao contra-feitiço, mas mesmo assim super jogável. Mas eu acho que o mais ok mesmo é o Festus Void.
Radiant team's turn to pick.
Ursa. Ok.
Ursa, padrão, né? Eu acho, pra lidar com uma briga do Anti-Mage, clicar no Death Prophet com as garras furiosas.
Eu não sei. Não sei se eu gosto muito dessa Ursa, não, hein? Ela consegue até buscar esse Anti-Mage, né? Vindo com lâmina difusora, queimando um pouco da mana dele. Só que a Death Prophet naturalmente build EO. Então já tem um EO aí pra parar ela. Pra parar a Ursa, no caso. A lane, então vai ser um Razor mid. Se eles colocam essa DP no mid agora, o Razor não tem impacto assim. Eles podem trazer algum offlaner agora. Se bem que o Prophet é também na lane da Ursa, é ótimo. O Void Spirit tá em aberto, talvez seja uma escolha pra responder esse Razor.
Vamos ver. O pick já tá vindo por aí. É Invoker pelo time da Talon. Cara, eu não sei qual draft que eu gosto mais, não. Sendo bem sincero. Eu acho que DP na offlane ela vai jogar de forma interessante. E é uma DP na mão do KP. Então não é o mid laner é o Mikoto. E Invoker Anti-Mage DP tem uma sinergia meio curiosa. Mais pelo que o Invoker faz, sabe, Flare? Eu não sei não, velho. Tipo, não sei em quem apostar nesse jogo. Se eu tivesse que chutar, eu diria que a Army Genesis fez um draft melhor, tá? Mas eu posso estar completamente enganado.
Eu particularmente acho que esse Anti-Mage vai estar muito livre pra jogar. É chato de lidar com a Ursa, mas tem bastante maneiras. Principalmente o Cetro Divino de Ous que vai vir aqui na Death Prophet. Se ela faz um Cetro Fantasma também já anula bastante do dano. Além do SK é terrível, tenebrosamente ruim, né, contra o Anti-Mage, porque ele gosta de jogar no meio das criaturas e aí o Anti-Mage vai queimar a mana dele todo momento. Matchup de Invoker Razor também quebra esse elo estático do Razor. O Razor que gosta de linkar algum, né, algum target ali, principalmente um core pra tirar esse dano no meio da TF, porque é muito importante. Ele vai ter que acabar linkando um suporte. Não sei se ele vai conseguir encaixar ali nesses cores, não faz muito sentido. E eu não sei, eu acho que o draft da Talon tá muito mais tranquilo de se executar. A Ursa realmente, né, chatíssima, né? Daga, Bash, consegue encaixar ali desse Anti-Mage muito rápido. Só que basicamente tem que contar com o poder da Bash. Eu não sei, eu acho que dá Talon nesse jogo.
Bom, perfeito. Eu chuto que a Army Genesis ganha. Mas a gente vai ficar aqui então no Yin Yang, 50-50 pra cada um, tranquilo. E vamos ver o que o pessoal do chat acha, talvez, porque já teremos também como posso dizer, as apostas para vocês aí do chat que estão acompanhando a gente. Temos 2 salves por aqui, no Abo da Agreste, joga uma ranked aí, Arja e Flare juntos, que o jogo vai ser bonito, Arja, what the fuck. Temos aqui também o BM Garrochinho, Guipep fez aplique no cabelo. Cara, não tem nada a ver com o Gipep, velho. Só no máximo a voz, que tipo, toda hora alguém confunde minha voz com a do Gipep.
Eu acho que tava trocado o nome ali, não sei.
Ah, é? Será que é por isso? Talvez, pode ser que seja. Ah, tá certo. Então garrochinha aqui, rápido no gatilho aí, mas a gente vai trocando aqui por enquanto os comandos sem problemas. Carcará tá dormindo, né? Fala ali o dono bom, tô não, pô, tô tranquilo aqui. E é isso, um salve pra todo mundo que tá aí no chat. Um abraço. Vamos que vamos pra esse jogo número 3, né, Farinha?
Let's bora. Ambos os times não vieram com fumaça ali pra tentar uma invasão. Acho que tem bastante potencial da Armidinhos, né, nesse possível primeiro abate. Principalmente porque tem muito controle.
Bom, fazer aqui uma apresentação dos jogadores, começando pelo time da Talon. Temos ali Fly, de Ogre Magi. Temos Mikoto com Invoker, KP ou Capi, Death Prophet, Gabi, de Anti-Mage. E Hyde de Monkey King. Pelo lado da Army Genesis, DP com a Ursa, Varys, ou Varys, que eu tenho chamado ele dessa forma, nessa entonação, de Gyrocopter, Wolmy de Sand King, Lim de Mirana e Azura de Razor. Então é o Razor mid. E, bom, é isso, Flare. Vamos ver o que vai ser das rotas. Hyde e Capi vão contestando a runa do top. E o Varys de novo, né? Ele foi de Gyrocopter nos 3 jogos. Tem que gostar muito desse herói pra jogar assim.
Se eu não me engano, ele que é o Drafter, né? Então ele que assuma essa bronca. Mas realmente, tem alguns heróis que... Oh, o DB roubou a runa, não acredito. 4 runas pra Armidines. Que é isso aqui?
Vou ganhar. Falei com você, Flare.
Meu Deus, acabou. Desbande. Agora.
4 runas.
A Jarara nunca erra, né, cara?
Pô, é estranho 4 runas, cara. Não dá pra entender, não. Ela é estático, rouba 12 de dano aqui. E, cara, 12 de dano contra esse Invoke com as Vex já é muita coisa na trilha do meio. Velocidade pro magnético. Negação vem. E é isso, pelo que eu tenho visto desses jogos. Vários mid laners não ligam de tomar esse EMP nível 1. É muito engraçado isso. Lá embaixo, Fly tomando dano pra caramba. Tem que utilizar o bálsamo de cura logo cedinho. A produção falou que é pouca mana queimada, mas ainda assim, é meio que meia mana ali. Pra quem tem 1.1 de mana regen, talvez possa ser expressivo de alguma forma.
Ai, pegou o currinho da Mirana.
E o Galo.
Currinho é bom, né?
Galo, comida.
Boa.
Tá certo.
Mas tomou deny do mago do mesmo jeito, então foi triste.
E a Azura tomando dano pra caramba na trilha do meio, na verdade. Ele que já veio com uma tiara assombrada, né, no caso. O campo de plasma não tá disponível, mas o Mikoto foi lá e falou, não, é meu, me dá essa criatura aí. E olha que ele roubou 22 de dano, hein? E o Azura ainda perdeu ali a creep. E tá tomando dano pra caramba do Mikoto. O Mikoto tem um pouco mais de zona de alcance, né, com esse Invoker. E vai macetando a cabeça desse Razor de pouco em pouco, mas ele já trouxe, inclusive, um bálsamo de cura pra sua lane.
Acho que isso é interessante que o Mikoto não veio sem regen nenhum pra lane. Tipo, nenhum. Ele veio full status e ele tá apertando A em cima ali do Azura, principalmente porque ele consegue hitar ele sem puxar o agro dos creeps. Ok, vai perder o maguinho.
Bom, aí agora Varys vai tomando mais cedo de Jingo. Hyde tinha tomado inclusive o míssil. Eita, não consegue cancelar o bálsamo de cura, mas tá tranquilo. Lá embaixo, o golpe subterrâneo, vem aqui na picada venenosa também agora. Na finalização cáustica, né, no caso, perdão. Flecha sagrada conecta, Gabi toma meia vida. Ele que não tem bálsamo de cura, então vai ter que se segurar um pouquinho na lane, né? Mas o Fly já antecipou um bálsamo de cura, então acaba curando ali o Anti-Mage lá em cima. Hyde com mais de Jingo. Vai tentar um pulo lateral aqui agora, mas o Varys, ele quer antecipar esse pull. Será que ele consegue? Demorou um pouco na interação. O pull vai acontecer. E tem sifão, hein? Sifão espiritual na cabeça do DB. E, eles conseguiram interromper o pull, sim. Fizeram um bom trabalho. Míssil na cabeça do Hyde. Mikoto na trilha do meio, tomando muito dano agora no matchup, Flare. E o primeiro abate vem na trilha do top, DB coletado 1-0 pro time da Talon.
Tá, 2 pontos. A travessura dele foi insana. Ele conseguiu dar dodge no dano do míssil, né? Não conseguiu dar dodge no stun porque não tem como, mas o dano sim. E o foguinho de fada ali, né? No finalzinho pra garantir que a Ursa não pegasse o abate. Então já em cima da Ursa pra não deixar ela chegar na lane. Tranquilo. Rota do bot, anti-mage dominando, já era esperado. Ele que sabe que tem bastante potencial nessa lane traz um orbe corrosivo. Normalmente não vejo o orbe corrosivo todo no anti-mage, sim apenas o orbe venenoso. Força, né, o homem jogar, trazer ali o anel da alma, porque ele sabe que ele vai jogar sem mana. E é basicamente isso que tem.
O homem, tem tempestade de areia aqui. Bom, sentinela reveladora colocada no chão, Fly na perseguição ali, tentando trazer um pouco de dano em cima do Lim. Pode ter o golpe subterrâneo, fica também em cima do respaldo das ondas de unidade, né? Pra talvez não tancar aquela flecha. A flecha passa, tá atordoado. Será que vem dano? Vem aqui agora no salto, Fly. Tem o respaldo da armadura aqui da estrutura, mas agora quem acaba tomando tapas da estrutura é o Lim e ele vai se matar pra torre mesmo. É isso, ele prefere dividir ali a recompensa do abate. Elo estático, vai trazendo aqui, sugando dano do Mikoto. E, bom, Azura com muita pouca vida, mas ele tem um bálsamo de cura.
2 de dano.
Tem runa d'água, Tami 2 de dano, é complicado. E olha o homem, tentou bem descer ali, né, na torre, tipo assim, se matar pra estrutura, mas não, o Gabi pega a finalização, o orbe corrosivo já vem fazendo impacto. E o Fortify também, né, a produção falando aqui. Mikoto, campo de plasma, flecha sagrada, conecta. Na rotação ele pega o abate em cima do Invoker do Mikoto, 3-2 no placar, Flare.
Sabe uma coisa que eu tenho percebido na Army Genesis que eu acho muito legal de se ver? Quando acontece esses abates que nem aconteceu agora, eles não tipam o inimigo, eles sempre tipam o amiguinho. Eu acho isso um fair play muito da hora. Porque ao mesmo tempo você não tá tendo aquele passivo agressivo e dá uma moral pra, pô, você jogou nice, toma aqui.
Bálsamo de cura cancelado e ainda vem um abate Gabi contra o cara ofensivo, pega a finalização lá em cima, cai o Varys também. E agora DB sendo perseguido, é um duplo abate no top. Que é isso, cara? Talon Esports, não, quase que cai, né, o DB, ele não caiu ainda.
Não tem mais pulo.
Só que o Hyde tá tentando perseguir, não vai conseguir.
Mirana.
E cai a Mirana lá embaixo. Olha, tem como voltar na aposta aí, Flare?
Relaxa. Calma que ainda tem muito jogo.
Será que tem mesmo? 6-2 no placar com 5 mil... nossa, 5 mil. 5 minutos e 40 aqui no tempo desta partida. Mikoto farmando.
Aí já vai pra uma ronda.
Azura.
Outro pra outro. Deu
tomou
sorte.
o campo de plasma no limiar ali, então trouxe o máximo de dano. Azura consegue a ronda de ilusão. Ele que tá indo com uma bota de fase e Mikoto aquela urna, né? É o que a gente já sabe, é o que a gente já viu inúmeras vezes.
Oh, Fly.
Tem um Fly? Não entendi, Fly?
Tá morto lá no bot.
Perseguição, campo de plasma, bloqueio corporal, traz a finalização cáustica e agora campo de plasma também garante aqui o abate pro Azura. 6-3 no placar, a vantagem de patrimônio ainda vem a 2.000 aqui pro time da Talon Esports. Cap muito próximo do nível 6, vai pegar o maguinha aqui agora, então ele pode botar o ponto no exorcismo e é o que ele faz. Já tem uma gota infundida também que vai trazendo aquela regeneração de mana passiva. E o Gabi que vem no farm, tem já também um anel de vida e uma botinha casual. Vai rushar fora de batalha.
Shove in that mid tier 1 with siege creep. So there's some good damage coming through. Mikoto does have the urn up as well, so he can kind of swing around, look for a kill opportunity, get the charge up, and start lining up for bigger shots down the line. That is a bit of that early power spike from the Invoker. Talon, for their part, they have grouped a lot of heroes up top. They Dragonfly in, Kaden has level 6, they're gonna try DB.
Yeah, DB's in big trouble now. Slowly chip away, but Barish is going to be there to zone them out. Still flying now, will reveal himself on the Ogre. We've also got LYM in the back, but he is going to be spotted out by Hyde now. Again, it's just one of the strengths about the Monkey King. So all this information you give back the way of your team. So for LYM, who wants to go for a nice little surprise arrow, chances are he's not going to be able to land one because Hyde, he'll have the vision over. As they pop the exorcism now, more TPs to come in. Azura, he can really get some work done here on this Razor, but they run with the Bloodlust down for the arrow. It is going to connect now. They have the homing missile set up. And so information or not from Hyde, it doesn't matter for KP.
They managed to punish the overextension. They're still gonna gun for more. They've got to be careful here.
Yeah, surprisingly flying. He stuck around with the creep wave, so Hyde, he's going to get taken out. Mikoto, he does show up on the Invoker, but all he can do is Tornado EMP.
my face.
Fly, he'll walk his way out, but you found the more valuable target in Hyde anyway. EG, to be fair, they do commit 4 heroes for that. Still worth their time, though.
It's definitely worth their time. However, I do worry about how much space that gives Gabby. Like, this still leaves the issue of the AM very open for Talon. Gabby has basically a free lane down bot. Wami's just trying to farm the jungle while he can. He does have his level 6, but our Sand King can't really show up to these fights yet. He doesn't have Blink Up, doesn't really have the best mana pool, he doesn't have the sustain. So you're always going to be playing a man down, which is very strange for AG. We talked about them maybe buying space out for Ursa. Instead, it's the Sand King they're kind of needing to bail out here, and even with that solo lane, it's still a lot better for Gabby to handle. They're going to line up for mid now, though.
They will. Boundless Strike will connect. Azura out of mana and should be out of life. And will be. Hyde can easily escape now. LYM, just a bit late to the party, is unable to contribute. And with that, if you're Talon, you might want to just start chipping at that mid-tier 1 and getting it ready for KP to rotate. That is exactly what they probably will do.
They're set up on mid. They've got all the supports here along with Makoto. No exorcism yet, so KP's just sticking to top. Looks like they might swing to top as well here in Talon's End. Fortunately for AG, they've already backed off from lane. DB's playing the jungle, working towards Mask of Madness now. So it looks like they will have to surrender these objectives, and Talon are getting off to that sort of pushing start we expected them to do. He managed to get that kill though, down bot.
We talked about the double stun, right? Like, you have the Burrow Strike into the arrow, and Wami's just had no mana to ever get it done, but now, with the Arcane Boots and the Soul Ring up, he'll always have some form of mana to give himself to allow the Burrow Strike setup. They finally get that pesky AM down, as now Makoto's going to try and rotate on the Invoker and maybe find a pick off into the Sand King. But I believe he will need some help. Down he can do it on his own, so they are going to bring Gabby back in. Onto the Sand King they go. Cold Snap will be there, but the Burrow Strike was committed in LYM. He's going to pop the Moonlight Shadow. Gabby, oh, actually they have the detection. No problem. They'll be able to get the kill. Frisch, however, moving in with an arrow out from LYM onto Makoto. They'll get the Invoker down. Hyde trying to fight. Wukong's command out. Frisch will drop first, and it looks like they'll find Azura. Great rotations out from Talon to ensure they got the better end of that team fight, and that they will.
Yeah, it works out in the end for Talon. AG just punished for overextending, coming in, trying to help out. And that does give KP the space down mid here as well to get that push going, Mike. So he's got the Exo running. There's only DV to defend. There's not much Years can do to stop that. The fortifies are still in play, but the pressure is coming through from Talon. So they're trying to open up the map once more for Gabby to still keep playing that farm game, still working towards the Battle Fury. If they can take this mid-tier 1, AG's going to lose a lot of ground, and the map control's not going to be in their favor. They have to really put their bodies for it to protect that objective. They've got the heroes here to watch, so it is a harder process for Talon to get started on that, but you know where Talon's sights are set next. They already took top lane solo with just KP. Mid's going to be the next big target, and they should be set for that defense soon.
Structures are fortified.
Gabby, again being targeted, but he does blink out at the right time. LYM scrapping around, but looks like he will make his way into the mid lane perhaps, where there might be a team fight to break out, as they've got Azura with a tornado. Call down out as well with the cold snap, but Azura, he's okay. Barely. And oh, maybe he's not. The neutral camp is going to help out, and Fly gets the kill. The damn ghost wouldn't leave him alone. Leave Azura alone!
Radiant's bottom tower's got problems.
No, he couldn't get the D aggro and couldn't run away in time as well. So a nice kill somehow coming out for Talon. That is going to set up for the mid-tier 1. And that's how the map opens up here for Talon. This is where the farm starts to ramp up. This is where DD might get choked out a bit. As his top jungle is exposed, and the side of Talon can just make their way up there. So they've got more control to play with. They've got a lot of room for Gabby to just keep farming up. Battle Fury not too far off now for AM. And once you can get running with that farm, the Ursa just can't keep up. He doesn't have that same farming capability. He can clear out camps relatively fast, but not as quick around the map as an AM with a blink. So AG have to watch themselves. They've got the blink up on Wami though, Mike, but no epicenter yet. So it's a blink Burrow Strike available. And that might be enough for them to play with the arrow, and they will go for the smoke play.
Absolutely. It's an important smoke to go for. AG, they're 3k behind. They need something to go their way to try and get this game 3 victory. And they're going to rush for the Roshan pit. Fair enough. Maybe you're not confident for the fight, but you can at least guarantee Roshan with this Ursa. As they do posture around the pit, try to remain protected here in this pit as Gabby and Fly now going to notice they are around. DB though, he's not healthy. Even with the Morbid mask up, Roshan's being a little bit naughty with the bashes. DB, fine for now. It should be able to get away with it seems, as Bash does come in. Roshan, no, he's going to be alright. Changes to go the way of Army Geniuses, and Talon, they do not read the movement. Back mid lane, first strike epicenters out, Makoto barely avoiding that arrow from LYM, as now they just pounce right back in onto Wami. Azura, he'll try to force the fight anyway, but Hyde, he gets the Wukongs off again. LYM and Barish trying to take him down desperately, but they can't get it done in time. They have to zone themselves out, as Hyde, he just makes so much work happen, and now Barish goes down. They'll find Hyde in the end, but what does it matter? They just clean up the side of Army Geniuses. And that Wukong's, John, it just did not allow them to get close enough to do anything.
Yeah, there was a bit of a disconnect there from AG. When Wami jumped in, they couldn't perfectly align the arrow timing, so there was a bit of hesitation or maybe repositioning coming out from LYM, and that meant they couldn't immediately kill off the Invoker, and that gave enough time for Mikado to just get his spells off, help get some follow-up control, open up the opportunity for Hyde to jump in and clean up. So despite taking the Aegis on AG's side, Talon now have a 4k lead. And while all of that happens, Gabby has a Battle Fury farming top. So your aim is growing really big. Your Invoker hit his Spirit Vessel spike very early on. KP is about to hit the BKB timing as well. You're not going to be able to stop the aggression from Talon playing this 4 Protect 1. They just have so much team fight on hand. Even if their control isn't that strong or relatively weaker compared to, say, Burst Strike Arrow, it's enough. If you're kind of split up here on AG, it's very easy for Talon to pick you off one by one.
He's trying to have a look around, but again, 5k net worth deficit, and they just aren't finding the angles they're looking for to make the initiation over. And you've got Hyde, who's just so annoying in the tree line, just giving the vision. Zwami, still safe in the sandstorm, but they do drop an early sentry ward. LYM is getting pinged out right now. Zwami, he's in with the Burrow Strike, but the help is there. Makoto, he'll remain safe for now as they try to get him out. LYM, he's on the chase with the Tornado. He's going to make it, so he does have to back off.
Not much good's happening.
The KB now, he'll re-engage for a little bit. But it seems as though Talon will be satisfied with Makoto surviving and just denying AG any form of kill.
Yeah, I think that's big. Talon's just playing around. It's AG who has the Aegis. It's AG that might look to be aggressive, but they're still not finding the angle. And while Talon plays as 4, again, Gabby just plays top. No one is rotating onto the AM because of the laning pressure Talon's bringing out. So the timings are working towards Talon's favor. They've got the 5k lead now. The BKB timing we were mentioning, Mike, for KP is up. So your DP can just stand forward, use Exo, run heroes down, not caring the world. The control from AG is not going to pin down that Death Prophet. And Talon could just line up for more objectives if they want. Top tier 2 is probably the best bet. They are just keeping the mid constantly shoved in. With it mid tier 1 still standing, AG wants that gone, especially with the Aegis to protect them in that push. But they just don't have that opportunity to do so, and they're missing out on a lot of precious time on the Aegis. Only a minute and 40 seconds left on that secondary life for DB.
Time's a ticking, John. I mean, Gabby, he's just freely farming up. Already 9.3k net worth. 3k ahead of DB on that Ursa. And unlike last game around, you don't have Azura to rely on as your carry. Azura, he's playing Razor. You know, it does have its own timings, and eventually it does start to slow down as mid lane. They are going to go on Makoto. They found the Invokes to the Boundless. It's not going to buy enough time. Hyde, he's going to try and run, but he can't make it. But now KP, he might just get the job done himself if he can. As he's already found Wami. He will go on to Barish now. He'll pick up a second. Still, I think you'd call that a successful team fight for Army Geniuses. Talon, you've still got Gabby farming, so there's no real problem with it.
I don't think they mind at all. They trade even in the end. And they do lose their Invoker, which is a bigger target than the Sand King of Wami, but you're getting more off the map anyway. You're buying space for Gabby to just avoid all these fights with the Aegis. You're going to hit his own timings relatively soon. He's going for the Manta Ags, man. That Ags on AM is the most annoying thing to play against. Like, swear to goodness, that illusion's just... Oh, it just makes it so hard for everyone to play this game. So Gabby's off to a really strong spike once that's available, and even just the Manta is going to make him very hard to lock down. I think AG's got to be very cautious about how slow they play this game. They've been trying to force the aggression. They're not jumping the right targets. And the AM is the biggest slippery target that just keeps farming up. And we talked about the potential of having Blink Burrow Strike with Arrow to just pin down the AM. As long as Gabby's not dying, Talon's fine trading 2 for 2 every single time.
Smoke up. We'll use Gabby as bait, but the Aegis, it has now expired, so perfect timing here for Talon to try and force this engagement. Hyde trying to get the vision. Smoke is going to be there, but Hyde saw that. And Smoke is immediately broken here on Wami. He'll have a look around, try to find where this Monkey King is, but he's off the mark. So AG, they could still try, but it does seem like Talon are well and truly ready for this. So instead DB, he might try to force the mid-tier 1 tower instead. Talon, they could fight or they could go for the top tier 2. I think top tier 2 is probably even more valuable.
Radiant's middle tower shouldn't have to take this abuse.
It again opens up the outpost, sets up for next rush. Oh.
Yeah, nice counter spell there from Gabby. He's just fine. Can they actually catch anyone? Spirit Vessel already out with the cold snap. Onto Azura, and half his HP is just gone. Just forfeited to the Invoker. In fact, I say half. It's 2/3 now. He does have that BKB. Hey, he's gonna find Gabby, but there's no chance in hell of killing the AM off. Not without a big arrow or a big burrow strike out from our Sand King. The times are continuing to be very, very tough here for AG, as they just don't have any angles into a fight.
They just can't find it. Talon's on top of them with the movement. They're really using the vision game from Hyde very well in this one. And the items are flowing in. Like Gabby, again, Manta style up. Very hard to pin down.
Oh, Makoto, that's a good one. They've got the Invoker. You've got to start off with those kind of kills. Like, sure, you want Gabby, but if you can find the pos 2, it's almost as good. It's Talon. Will stay grouped up.
Where did Radiant's
Getting cut off very soon, though. It's flying. He's going to be jumped off by DB immediately, but the enrage was there. The pop that goes from KB, but he jumps to the low ground, and he's fine. Hiding in and out with Wami with the epicenter back on a KB, but the BKB, it's so fast from KB, and now Gabby, he'll move in, onto DB they go. They want that Ursa first, without an enraged DB struggling to survive as Gabby, he'll get the job done. Azura now, he'll try to roll with his own BKB charge out, but it doesn't look to be enough as Gabby, he will not leave this man alone, we'll find him, and there's your mana void out from the AM. Gets the job done. Did you see the reaction speed of KP jump?
Oh yeah, like, right on time. I think that was thanks to Hyde. He was scouting out that Roach Pit with his position on the Monkey King. He found the channel from Wami to enable KP to get the perfect use of that BKB, and they turned things around. AG got that good pick off, but it's just not enough. I don't think Mikado is a problem in these team fights. I mean, he is annoying with all his spells, with the Tornado, the Cold Snap, the Ice Wall coming through. But committing so much for one kill, kind of getting kited around by supports in that ward spot, was just not the follow-through that AG needed. They need to be able to take a confident position with vision. They just don't have the info on the map to get the right angles in. And it's just down to Hyde, it's just down to these wards Talon has planted on the cliffs. AG has invested a lot in getting the wards, but Talon just keeps rewarding anyway. They just keep going back in, ensuring they've got the spots, ensuring they fight around the vision. And AG just lack the follow-through because of that. I think they're very reliant on having superior vision, or having Talon lack vision, for them to get the angles, because they're so reliant on Burst Strike Arrow. And if you see the Sand King coming in, then it's just so easy to use your BKB, run off, and just reset yourself.
Heading over towards Gabby, but again, I just don't think you have the lockdown right now for this anti-mage. He's out of there anyway. They're around. They'll have a quick scan out, but they will not find the AM as Wami. He'll have to find another target. Makoto, again, is a pretty nice one to find, and he should be able to get the Burrow Strike off into the arrow setup, but no! It's missed time. FB Center still going to come through, but the Orchid is there. Makoto, he's been jumped by DB, however. The Ursa's got him, but how does DB get out of this? He's out of range already. Slows down with the bullwhip. FB Center is out onto KP, however, and they've got the Death Prophet. They're still trying to fight. Mataboy now, Gappy! He just shreds them. No IM. They'll try to get out, but not away from Gabby as the blink is there. Azura, the last target left on the Razor, and eventually will be taken care of by Gabby, who could just infinitely blink towards this Razor. He'd be away, and they shouldn't have the damage and won't. So you at least get one out, but still not really great news for AG as they lost 4 heroes for 2.
Oh my god, dude. The axe is up for Gabby now as well. So, hello, Blink Illusions. That will just constantly... Why does it have 3 charges? I don't understand that. Like, 3 charges of illusions sent to the backline, burning mana down. If Wami just gets his mana pool burned down, you know, the illusions get sent to him. He's not going to be able to blink in. He's not going to be able to set up for arrow. There's not going to be enough left over, maybe even for the Burrow Strike Epicenter combination. So this is a great pickup by Gabby. AG, they had this early spike they had to run with, but they lost their bot lane. I think Wami's lane was just so important to this entire game. The slower start for the Sand King just kind of set them back a big amount, and now Roach number 2 is being taken by Talon. You've got the Ursa and AG. You want to take this objective, but you don't have the angles. Look at the vision from Talon. They still hold that ward cliff. They still have high jumping around. They have 3 wards cutting across that riverside. There's no angles for AG at all.
Now you got a Shards up on KP, you've got an Aegis up on Gabby. He may work towards the Eye of Skadi before getting aggressive again, but quite frankly, John, nobody's really contested Gabby this game. He's 8-1-4. He died 1 time to the Burrow Strike Arrow combo in the laning phase, and that's about it. Ever since then, he has not dropped a death, and, well, quite frankly, hasn't even been close to dying on this anti-mage, so AG, they've got to find a way to get it done. It just seems so much more difficult with an Aegis there now. If it wasn't hard enough already. Well, Talon can get out of this. I mean, T2 mid, T2 bot, they're both still standing. It just seems like such easy pickings as long as Gabby's not the first to get caught out. And even then, again, he has that secondary line. But I just don't see how you can kill him a second time. Not in one team fight.
Yeah, it's just so difficult. See that illusion just doing work, send it out.
Yeah.
It gets down, you still have 2 charges for some reason, although...
They've got KP, that's a nice way to start. Onto the Death Prophet, and he's down already, in fact flying now. Also getting caught out, and that's a great way to start the fight. But can they find more? They're going to try onto Makoto as DB's already made the jump in. Dust is there, found the strike out high. He'll pop the Wukong's command, he'll try to hold them back, and he will do so successfully. But it is going to cost him his own life. Gabby does not end up reinitiating. The Army Genius is a successful team fight for themselves. We'll see what they can get out of this. Gabby. Jump in. Walk right back out.
Just playing tag a bit. Great pickoffs coming through from AG. That stops the tier 2 mid push. I think you've got to be a bit cautious with overextending yourself there on Talon's end. You don't want to split up too hard. That's how AG does find their angles, right? Like if you're isolated, it's very easy to get the full combination Burrow Strike Arrow. Where Talon finds the most success is when they're actually pretty clumped up, because that control will land onto one, but that exposes the entirety of AG towards Talon's own counter fight, and that's how they line up their own shots coming back in. Never realized this as well, Mike, but we're at the point where somehow Fly's 15 and Mikado's 14 on the Invoker. You rarely see that, don't you? Ogre Magi levels ahead, even Hyde is levels ahead, so Mikado's really been targeted down, but doesn't matter too much. They will smoke to play as KP found Varish at least.
Yeah, but he's going to TP on, and they've got no way to cancel. Quick thinking there from Varish to get himself out. Gabby, he's pretty close to the Eye of Skadi, but again, it doesn't really feel like he needs it. Still with the Aegis up for 2 minutes. You may as well just get aggressive here as Talon. AG, they're going to have to try and respond to this mid-tier 2 tower push. Got Epicenter back up in 3.
It looks like Dire
It's really hard though, because there's so many ways of scouting them out with these illusions, and there you go. Both out now onto Azura.
Under attack.
Forced to run away before all his mana's gone.
Middle tower just went
And
down.
the tier 2 tower, it just drops. No chance of trying to defend.
Oh, that's such a sneaky play as well. They just got the Cloak of Flames drop. Wami had to go in to pick it up and then force that blink out just to take the neutral. Like, they're under such high pressure that you can't afford to make small mistakes like that. So, at the least, Wami has the Cloak of Flames. They do Moonlight up. They're going to look for the angle onto the mid. Mikado sticking out again. Would be a nice target to start this fight once more. Azura does reveal that.
The hide around as they get the balance strike off onto LYM. Silenced up, they'll try to force staff out, but there is no chance that he does make it out. As Talon, they're hungry for more. They want another target, but who can they find? Barich, he does get spotted. Can they cancel? Yeah, they can. Mana Void, Gabby, he does end up cancelling the TP of the gyrocopter and set up for another. As Hyde is still looking around for another and has found one in Wami. There's your balance out, and Wami should have no way out. Gabby will take care of it. Another kill for the anti-mage.
Of magic.
There's no escaping from this draft. There really isn't. There's just too many ways of scouting them out.
Yeah, they've got a lot of vision. They've got a lot of mobility with the AM, the Monkey King on hand. They can just be on top of you in a flash. DB, and just blink out at the least, but Azura might not be so safe here.
May not. Hyde has the balance again, but I believe just barely missed out on the vision he needed. What do you do as AG though, John? It feels like every team fight that goes by just goes back the way of Talon. They're holding a 13k net worth lead. And I suppose AG might have a bit of an opening once that Aegis does expire, which is happening right now. But even then, can you win a team fight here as AG?
You can, but you have to play pick-off games first. So, like we saw in that tier 2 push earlier on, if they manage to get a couple of solo pick-offs and force a bigger engage, Talon will back off. I think that's what they need to do. Just focus on one hero at a time, clean them up, rinse and repeat, and just slow down the pace of Talon trying to build up on that Ursa.
Oh, jump in. They've got a great target to start. As KB again being focused down, but this time he has a BKB up. Talon, they already got that final out of tower. You're around that point now where you just wait out the next Roshan and then go for the high ground play. Because we're going to find out in about 2 minutes when that Roshan will come up. But in the meantime, for Gabby, he's just going to go ahead and farm a butterfly. They've got no way to get through it. So DB, who's already struggling to farm, is going to start working towards that MKB. But chances are he will not have it in time to deal with Gabby's butterfly.
The farm gap is just way too big. It just comes down to the fact that DB can't farm as much as an AM. He doesn't have a Battle Fury of his own. He doesn't jump through camps as fast. Hyde gets a good jump around. They do see the Monkey King jumping. There was no sentry down, so he doesn't see them through the Moonlight, but they're not able to find big targets well on AG's side with Moonlight out. So still not finding the angles. It is still about the pick-off game. They need to be able to leverage that Burst Strike arrow. It's been tough though, with the BKBs coming out. The distance at which LYM's trying to find these arrows are just so far as well. And that sometimes the chain stun just doesn't come true, and if they can't get the combo off, it feels like AG misses out on their only angle in taking these fights.
We're being watched right now by Makoto. Bot lane, they're just going to push high ground instead. They know exactly where they are. Force the rotations back in from Army Geniuses. Smart plays here from Gabby, and that'll leave Azura on his own. He'll be forced to BKB up thanks to Makoto, and they might still be able to cut him off. They're making their way over. Poor old Azura, he's just trying to go back to the base, but it's not going to work out for him. As Gabby's there, arrow, it'll fly in, but Gabby just sidesteps and just ignores it. It's just a great play as they move in for more now. KP is onto DB. In fact, here comes Gabby onto the Mirana. Mana Void won't be quite enough. LYM, he barely makes it back to the fountain. But how do you defend this tier 3 tower? The answer is you can't, John. The answer is you can't.
Dire's top barracks are under
you can't. And these AM illusions just constantly blinking in, revealing your position, makes it hard for AG to just find the angle into the back. They still have the epicenter burrow strike. They will lose their top lane. And for Talon, it's just a rinse and repeat. Roshan will find respawn shortly. If it's a fast one, that could be pretty darn big for Talon, but it's a longer respawn. So they're going to have to be patient for Aegis. That buys some time for AG. I don't really know if the Rosh is necessary for Talon on the high ground, though. Like, if they just find one pick off, as we saw with Azura, it's just really easy for them to run down and still find an objective anyway.
Right on to that Ursa. Mana gone. KP, he's going to be there for support. Forced up is out. LYM, oh, DB, he's forced the BKB up. He gets tricked. It's just illusions. I say just illusions, though. Those illusions hit hard.
Oh, yes. And you really can't tell if it's the AM blinking in onto you or if it's a blink fragment coming up. Like, that's the one thing. It's so easy to bait out BKBs like that because there's no real prompt, no real visual or audio prompt that tells you, all right, this is a fake. It's just very sneaky. And you have 3 charges of that. Like, the uptime is like 3 charges, 7 seconds each. That's 21 seconds of illusions, 25-second restore for 1. Like, that's kind of insane uptime if you just spam it right. So Caddy's always going to have that tool on hand. AG, ground. They're not dipping outside their base here, Mike. They're just playing the slow game, trying their best to get what farm they can. Azura is trying to save up for the refresh, which would be big on the Razor. Double static link, double Eye of the Storm can make a pretty big impact in team fights, but he just has to be able to stand and fight for that duration, and AG will go for a smoke play again.
The hide. Look at the positioning from this Monkey King, John. Every single time. He's ready, but the Moonlight Shadow will make it so they can sneak by. KP, he'll break the smoke, but again, the Invis not going to allow him to know exactly where they are. So AG, they'll keep wrapping towards the high ground, but Talon, they seem to know. They'll make their move in, but they find nothing yet. They're still chasing down AG, and now they'll see them. Balance strike out for Rich. He'll get caught first. Burrow strike is there. Maybe Gabby's in trouble, but no. With the butterfly, he is perfectly fine. They can't catch him out. They don't know which one the real one is. And now KP, he'll get right to work as AG are completely split up and by themselves. Azura, he'll try to TP and does make it out in time, but you've left DB alone and he's going to dive through the BKB.
Shall not prevail.
It's such a hard game with the Tag and Scepter on Gabby. In fact, they even found LYM. But they're on to the Roshan.
Yep. You don't have the angle to fight this one out in AG anymore. They don't have the numbers. They do have the burst strike play, but Juan is too far out. Gabby, he's actually flying out and adds Blessing of his own. He's going to free up that slot. They do give the ads over to Mikoto, and that should allow them to maybe now just play with Cataclysm. Like, they don't have the best hold for it, but just the threat is going to be big, and AG have to watch himself. It's only 2 racks left. It's not going to take long for Talon to get on top of that.
Absolutely not. KB moves in along with Gabby again, just so confident to be able to take these T3s. Gabby will get rid of one. AG, this could be the final defense, but they're waiting out the respawns. They do not want to commit buyback right now on DB. They'd rather hold just in case he drops. But Gabby, he's not done. With the alacrity up, he just takes the T3s that much faster. DB now will come up. There's your Manta, but it's not a dodge. Wami's in. Do you have the damage output? Not quite, Gabby. He's already taken down Wami. Where does he go? He moves backwards. As DB, he's coming now. Onto hide, but the Monkey King is going to be fine within that Wukong's command. KB, he'll keep on to work as DB. BKB or not, he is just melting to the damage of Gabby. Arrow at least does connect this time around, but they don't have the damage out. Gabby is still fine to blink away as Fly, he'll hold them back on that Ogre. Gabby again with a Matter Void in after 3 heroes. He'll take down LYM. He's healthy once again. Back in onto DB. He's just man fighting into the T4 towers. Back in on Azura now. This Razor cannot survive the damage output. And now a Tornado out with the Cataclysm. For it's just melt. DB's gone. It's a dieback on the Ursa. And they call it. They have seen enough. And Talon, they have taken their first 2-1 victory in Division 2 of the SCA DPC against Army Geniuses.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job of just enabling Gabby to have this great AM game. They kept forcing fights out. They kept